to the chase, where dissent's a thrill. Ben and John are here, making time stand still. Diving deep where others just pretend. They're your guides on this journey. Chasing dissent, dissent. Chasing dissent, where truth's the quest. Ben and John won't give it a rest. In a maze of facts, they find their way, bringing the dawn of a clearer day. They laugh, they probe, they take no sides. Rabbit holes, they take their strides. Bring the answer, they are heaven sent. Ben and John chasing dissent. Chasing dissent. So hit subscribe, don't be content. Join the chase, be omnipresent. With Ben and John, no time is misspent. On the trail, with Chasing Dissent.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you, Ben?
I'm a bit blocky, as you can see, but other than that, I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. Yes. So, yeah, we're ready. We're ready for this massive debate that we're going to have tonight.
Tonight, here, live on Chasing Dissent, we will be taking extremely seriously a 7-way debate between, for the Conservative Party, Penny Mordaunt. For the Labour Party, it is the ginger growler herself, Angela Rayner. For the Scottish National Party, Stephen Flynn. Liberal Democrats, they're providing you with Daisy Cooper. The Green Party are giving you one Carla Denyer. The Reform Party are throwing Nigel Farage into the ring. And finally, for some strange reason, Plaid Cymru are here. Don't ask me to pronounce his name.
Who's Plaid Cymru?
They're the Party of Wales, John.
So, just on cue, some clown has decided to start running a motorbike right outside my window.
Ah, right outside the window.
Can you hear it?
I can. And I'm taking a look down below at our election debate live feed, and they're still in the newsroom right now.
They're in what they're calling the spin room.
The spin room, my God.
BBC debate live from the spin room. I mean,
My God, my camera is
flash,
terrible tonight. I've just put the fan on it.
We can flash them a quick view, I think, if we want to. There's a quick view. Oh, hold on. Where's it gone?
You have to bring it back up. Get it back on stage. And while you do that,
Yeah, but it was there.
I'm taking this extremely seriously tonight, John.
Oh, right. Good grief.
I'm taking this extremely seriously tonight.
Oh, we're starting.
Oh, we're starting. I'm ready.
Right, hold on. What's going on? Why has it not come up?
I have no idea. You need to pull it in.
I'm gonna. Well, it was already in.
There it is.
Oh, that's just.
Are we ready to party, people? Are we?
Good evening to all of you watching and to our live audience here in the BBC Radio Theatre at Broadcasting House in London. With less than 4 weeks to polling day, the parties with us tonight are here because of their performance in recent elections and their standing in opinion polls. The invitation was for leaders or leading figures to take part. And tonight, the 7 debaters with us
Well, they're close
are,
together.
For the Conservatives, Penny Mordaunt, the leader of the House of Commons. The leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage. Labour's Deputy Leader, Angela Rayner.
The ginger growler.
The leader of Plaid
Who?
Cymru, the Party
Who?
of Wales. Carla Denyer, co-leader of the Green Party of England and Wales, the Liberal Democrats' Deputy
Whoa.
Leader,
She's
and
got
the
my
Scottish
teeth.
National Party's Westminster
Nay.
Stephen Flynn.
Boo. That guy Flynn he might lose his seat actually.
Now, the parties drew lots to decide their position on
They
stage,
drew
and they
lots.
stand before an audience who have been chosen by the pollsters Savanta. They come from many different backgrounds,
Just remember,
reflecting voters from across
none of these people
Great
are
Britain.
actually
They include supporters
MPs
of the
anymore.
seven parties
Shalini
represented
wants
here,
to know what I'm
as well
wearing.
as
Well, I'm
some
wearing a
undecided
mankini that was
voters.
sent to me
They may
by
come
our
to this with
Amy.
strong views, or they may find themselves persuaded.
And it's
Because
quite
I'm-
appropriate because
They
it's
hear
really
from
warm
the
there,
stage.
isn't it?
It's really
And the
warm here. I'm
questions
taking
that
this so
you will hear in
seriously.
the next 90 minutes
Yeah,
will come
you dressed
from
for the
the
occasion.
audience. The
Did.
time will go fast. We need to make sure all seven get their say, and there will be times that I move them on or call a halt.
Oh, I'm
Meanwhile,
sure you'll be
journalists
very
and other
forceful.
representatives of the parties are gathered in our spin room, where
I'll
there
tell you
will
what,
be
I also
reaction
bought
to the live
supplies.
debate.
Who's that clown?
And
Who was that clown
to
that
the
was in there?
first
Was
of
that
tonight's
Politics Joe?
questions, and it comes from
No, good
Francis
grief.
Gottesman.
As we celebrate D-Day and remember those like my father and so many others who served this country so well, how will the parties ensure our army is ready and our country is safe from
They
another
won't.
major conflict?
Thank you, Mr. Gottesman. And let me turn first to Angela Rayner for Labour.
Thank you, Francis, and thank you to all those that have served in our armed forces and continue
Oh,
to do
God,
so
I can't
in
stand
what
her
is
voice.
a very, insecure world at the
She
moment.
just sounds
First of all,
awful. She
Labour's
sounds like she's got a
committed
cold.
to the
First
She's
of all,
like
I'll
your
s-
Liz Truss
nuclear
impersonation.
deterrent, especially
First
in the
of all, I'll
climate
say
that
to
we're
the
in,
army, if
which
you get
means we will
yourself
keep
ready,
our
I'll show
nuclear
you my ginger
deterrent,
growler.
that we will make sure that
No.
the 4 submarines are built in Barrow and that we will continue with the upgrades. We will have a commitment to the 2.5% spending of GDP, which obviously is very important. And I think one of the other things that is a real scandal at the moment is
really
our armed
important.
forces and the accommodation that they're given. So we will look at that issue as well. We want to make sure that everyone has secure, decent homes in the UK.
Daisy Cooper for the Liberal Democrats.
Well, the Liberal Democrats are the party of Paddy Ashdown, so it won't surprise you to know that we take defence very seriously. So first of all, we would maintain the nuclear deterrent that we have. An absolute priority for us is reversing the
Please
cut to our
stop.
troops of 10,000, which has happened under the Conservatives. We would increase spending on
Oh
defence.
God, it's
year
like a nails on a
year in the next
chalkboard.
Parliament, with the ambition of reaching 2.5% by the
Wow.
end of the next Parliament. Having decent homes for our veterans and for our armed forces is incredibly important. I'm very proud of the fact that it was a Liberal Democrat amendment.
Let me just
that
ask,
tried to
would
make
you
sure that
take
we
this
had that every single
seriously
home met the
in
decent
a
home
position of
standard?
power?
It was only because this general election was called that that particular piece of legislation fell.
Are you
that it's a
mocking
priority
the
for us
women's
in the next
accent?
Parliament.
I'm
Nigel
not mocking
Farage.
her voice entirely, mate. It's like, no.
Oh,
no.
Here's Farage on. Let's listen to the frog.
Pro rata. The army has shrunk from 100,000 to 72,000. Recruitment is
Ribbit.
catastrophic. So rather than having a weird concept of national service where 30,000 youngsters would do a year, we need to recruit 30,000 people into the army full time. And yes, the veterans point's been made already. Respect our veterans, including those with the average age of 100 who were deserted by the Prime Minister in Normandy yesterday.
Oh,
which
the
I think
jabs
was a
have
complete
begun.
Utter disgrace.
Oh,
and shows
hold
us we
on,
actually
he's
have
wrong.
a very
He's wrong on a
unpatriotic
number of
Prime
points
Minister.
here.
It was
One,
dreadful.
But Penny
We
Morgan,
don't have
can
a
you
Prime
respond
Minister.
to that? Rishi Sunak leaving the D-Day commemoration.
Rishi
before
Sunak
the
is
end of the
not
day.
an elected
What
MP any
happened
longer.
was completely wrong.
Well,
Parliament
yeah.
has been
And the
dissolved.
Prime
No, he's
Minister
Oh, yeah,
not.
good point.
rightly
Parliament is
apologised for that,
dissolved. None of
apologised
these
to
people are
veterans,
currently MPs.
But also to all of us.
They are
because he was
standing to be
representing
elected, but
all
none of
us.
them are
I'm from
actually currently
Portsmouth.
MPs.
I've also been Defence Secretary.
The
and
only
my wish at
person
the
that
end of
should
this
have been
week is
there
that all of our
representing the
veterans
House of Commons
feel
is the
completely
Speaker, because he's the
treasured.
only one that's still
And
in
I'm hoping
office.
tonight to
Thank you,
convince
Natalie.
of some things that are important
At least somebody
to them,
enjoys it.
important to their legacy. And I couldn't do that if I wasn't straight with you on that issue.
Would
I
you,
just
have
want
left,
to.
would you have left D-Day early?
I didn't go to D-Day. I think what happened was very
I
wrong. think
didn't-
the Prime Minister has
and he
apologised for
didn't
that.
ask you that.
But what I also
Ooh.
Why
think
did
is
he leave?
important is we
He's
honour
not
them.
the Prime
They
Minister.
fought for our
He
freedom.
left to go and do an
Unless we are spending
interview.
the right amount on defence, we can't honour that
He's
legacy.
Rishi
left.
The
Sunak,
baseline for our
not Member
equipment
of Parliament.
programme
That's what he is right now.
2.5%.
He is
If
an
you're not committed to
unelected.
spending
He's
that
an
over the period
unelected
it needs to be
puppet.
spent,
purporting to
Squatting in
represent
10
us.
Downing Street.
Yeah, they are. They're
The
all supposed
cornerstone
to have
of our
cleared their
defence
offices out
is our
by now.
nuclear deterrent.
They've had a couple of
And
days
you
since
need more than
resolution to
submarine sailors
clear out
and
their
warheads
offices.
to deliver that.
They need to
You
get their
need
stuff out
credibility.
because they might never
And
be
it's
going
too late
back.
for
In fact,
Labour
most of them
on
won't be.
credibility.
RCW
Angela
says he's going to
Rayner
vote for Labour.
voted recently, along with the guy that wants
not
to be your
voting for
foreign secretary
anyone.
and half the Labour front bench, to end
Vote
our
for
nuclear
Farage.
deterrent.
Vote for the talking frog.
If you're doubting that they would use that
here
force,
we
and she
go.
might be
Oh,
Prime
the
Minister
slagging match
in
begins.
4 or 5 years' time, if you are doubting that she or
Angela's
David
like,
Lammy or Keir
"Ooh,
Starmer would use
ooh,
that,
getting all
imagine what
wet."
Putin is thinking. Without credibility, we
What?
become a target. If we become
Oh,
a target, you
get
are
out.
less safe. It's too
Oh,
late for this generation
off,
of Labour
Penny.
politicians.
You're
That
talking
credibility
rubbish.
is shot.
Oh my
Do
God,
not
Ginger
vote
Growler
these
looks
people
like
in.
she wants to
Angela
throw a
Rangers
punch
is
though,
one
doesn't
up.
she?
And you
Yeah,
can keep
yeah,
pointing at me,
she'd-
but
she'd
you're the
grab her by
party
the-
that have cut the armed forces,
she'd
Hold on,
totally
hold on.
abandoned and left
Down.
us in a real mess. Keir has been absolutely clear. I am absolutely clear. We will keep our nuclear deterrent, and we will
What was
invest
Keir's
in
father,
nuclear.
Angela?
We are prepared to
Say it,
Angela.
Angela.
Say the line.
You stand next to and have your photograph taken. If your foe does not believe that you will use these weapons, the deterrent
Oh,
is gone.
Right,
Well,
hold
that's
on.
the position
What
you're in.
possible,
Serious
what
stuff.
possible
This will
purpose
happen
would
is that
Putin
if you
have
elect
in
tennis
invading the
people, we've become a
UK?
laughing stock internationally because of your party. Keir Starmer has changed the Labour Party. We're very clear on
Keir
our
Starmer
number
has
one
turned it
priority.
back
tell you
into
what.
boys Labour.
Let me
I
bring in,
tell you what,
let me
though,
bring in some more.
it's
let
had
me bring
more
in some
action
more
in the
parties
first 5
on the
minutes than
debate.
the whole of the entire ITV debate.
That's it, Keith. Send the growler out every single time.
Send the
Let
growler.
questions
Send
as to
the
what
growler.
happens
Unleash
how all
the
the parties
ginger.
ensure our army is ready and our country is safe from another major conflict. Carla Denia, how would the Green Party ensure
Oh,
that?
throw
Well,
some
first of all,
mud
I wanna
on them
say
and
we
let's
all owe
get
a
this
huge
party
debt to our
started.
veterans, those from
Let's
D-Day
get
and
it
those from
started.
conflicts
Let's
since,
get
and it's a tragedy that so many veterans then often struggle in life. There's
Is she
high
like
rates of homelessness, and that's
12?
something that's a high priority for myself and the Greens to tackle. In terms of defence more broadly,
Aw.
this election is about choosing
Aw.
what kind of country we
She's
want to
like a
be.
wee
And of
girl.
course,
A wee
our
girl.
security. We live in
She's a wee
uncertain
girl.
and dangerous times with war in
Oh.
our European
Brit
borders
Mate
and
says her
major threats
pronouns
from
are this and
cyber
that.
attacks that don't
Shalini
affect
says she's
geographical
smaller than
boundaries.
me, and but
Threats
look
should
at her,
not be
she's
underestimated.
tiny.
But
Oh.
the biggest threat facing the
Oh.
UK and the world is climate change. And militaries, interestingly, are taking this threat extremely seriously.
Oh,
In
she's
answer to the
talking
question-
about
in answer to the
bloody
question, how do you
climate.
ensure
Yeah,
our army
she's
is ready?
lost
You
it.
do not
She's,
want to see the size of the army grow, and you do not
the-
want to see
the
defence
military
spending
aren't
go up
taking
to
anything seriously.
2.5% of GDP.
Well, let's look for a moment at why we're talking about that
Spencer.
number. As members of NATO, we are rightly
She's
asked
gonna
to
find a way
contribute
to make it
fair
about the
amount towards
climate.
the defence budget. That's
Ready for it?
totally fair enough for NATO to ask for that. But the UK is already
Hi,
contributing
Spencer.
the 2% that NATO asks. That doesn't mean,
My
however,
wife and
that we
son
couldn't be
bumped into
spending that
Spencer
money
sitting on the
more
beach working on his
effectively. And as
laptop eating an
Greens,
ice
we're
cream
clear
earlier.
that,
Oh, you wouldn't have damaged them.
investing
Did
in
it bounce far?
tackling climate threats, the biggest threat facing humanity, as militaries all over the world are already doing, because they recognise that if not tackled adequately, it will
Spencer.
increase conflicts over water, for example, increase famine, and create millions of refugees.
Let me turn then to Stephen
Oh, I
Flynn
can
of the
crush a grape.
SNP. The nuclear deterrent, the submarines are based in Scotland. You are against maintaining the nuclear deterrent there?
Yes, absolutely. And our party's had a very long-standing tradition in respect of that, because we believe that money can be better spent on conventional defence
He's an
forces.
observer
And
at a
what we've
fringe.
seen in Europe over
Yeah.
the course of recent
I don't
years
like him.
is that how absolutely vital conventional defence forces are. But may I
The host is a
just
bit fitter,
return to
Brittany.
the
I'll
original
get
question,
you
thank
that.
Francis for his father's contribution. We need to be standing with our veterans. We need to make sure that our military is fully funded and that we have
Fully
more
funded.
people
That's-
serving, and that we
that's
look
easy for
after
you to say,
those who
Stephen.
become
Fully
veterans. And just
funded.
finally on the Prime Minister. A
No,
Prime
he's not one of
Minister
my
who
lot.
puts
He's
his
not one
own
of my lot.
political
He's
career
not a real
before
Scotsman.
public service is no Prime Minister
I think
at
he's an
all.
East
A
Coaster.
Prime Minister who puts his own political career before Normandy war veterans
See, this is the
no
problem
Prime
with
Minister
Scotland,
at all.
because,
So it's incumbent
you know,
upon all of us
they say
to do our national
Scotland wants
service and
independence.
vote the
Scotland
Tories
doesn't
out of
even
office.
like itself.
Green up your worst.
I mean, if you're from Glasgow, you
Yesterday
hate
was
people from
a
Edinburgh.
sobering day again, wasn't
You
it?
mock
In
people
remembering
from
the
Aberdeen.
sacrifice made
Oh,
on the beaches
the
of
Cymru guy's
Normandy.
talking
Certainly
now.
wasn't a day for state
Don't know why he's here.
What's his name?
No, hang on a
Run.
second. I raised £100,000.
Run.
I raised £100,000 for the London
Run.
Taxi Charity to send veterans back to Normandy. That's why I was there. Thank you.
And it certainly
Send
wasn't
some
a
of
day
the
for a
illegals
Prime
back
Minister
to Normandy.
decide, as Stephen says, that his priority should be to fight for his own political future. We have
Exactly,
a proud record in
RCW.
Wales
Who?
of sending young men and women to the armed
Why
forces.
is
and
this
we need to
man
make sure
here?
that the armed forces are properly funded for conventional
Why is
deterrence
Flynn there?
and peacekeeping, and we need to look after
Why is Stephen
those
Flynn
young
there?
people when they leave the armed
Because
forces with so
SNP
many problems in housing
he's the leader of the
and,
SNP.
But
and
why is he
mental health
here?
Issues and
Because
so on.
he's the leader
But
of a
we don't
political
build
party
that
that's
resilient
elected
conventional force
and
by spending
has seats
£200
in the
billion
Westminster
pounds on a
Parliament.
new nuclear deterrent.
Yeah, but it's not elected
Thank
by
you.
anybody
Penny
but
Morden,
people
to
in
come
Scotland.
back to you. I mean, clearly,
No,
there's been
no.
a lot of comment already
This
about
is
the
not-
Prime Minister in D-Day, and
Hold
then
on, I'm gonna
it
mute this
amounting to
slightly.
no
Ben.
presence at all.
Right.
Yeah.
He is a Westminster MP. He's
Yes, but
elected.
how I can't vote for him.
Oh, well, I can't vote for your MP, mate.
Yeah, but I can't vote for anyone in his party.
No, that's because he hasn't stood anyone in your constituency.
That's because he hasn't stood anybody outside of Scotland. So my
well,
question stands: why is he here?
Because he's elected to represent the people of his constituency in the Westminster Parliament.
Okay, well he shouldn't be at a leaders' debate. I'm sorry, he shouldn't.
He's the leader of the. He's the leader
Yeah,
of
and
the
if it was,
political party.
and if the political party was
Well-
standing on a national scale, then I would understand. But they're not.
Well, right, but no, see, that's not correct because the Green Party don't put up an MP in every seat either.
Yeah, but they do in every country. There's Greens in Wales, there's Greens in Scotland, there's
Yeah,
Greens
but
in
they're a
Northern
different
Ireland.
Party. They're a different party. She's the leader of the Green Party in England.
They want the sound back.
Yeah, she's the leader of the Green Party in England. So I think you're being a bit disingenuous there.
Yeah.
Panic
Maybe.
that gave us that back of a fag packet plan for a new national service, which those in the armed forces have said that wouldn't be workable, let alone what it means about what the Prime Minister thinks of our young people in this country.
Let's be clear about what happened yesterday. It was not only politically shameful, but I think many of us feel personally quite insulted. I started yesterday morning watching a recording made by the Royal Mint of my late grandfather, where he recounts catching his best friend who fell from the top of a Sherman tank, who was shot in the head. And as he waded through the water, he recounted in his words, men blown to pieces, hands, legs, and heads. If he
Was
had
that
been there
war?
yesterday and seen the Prime Minister walk away from him, I would have found that completely, as I do now,
I
find
think
it
she's
completely
quoting from
and
the big
utterly
book of
unforgivable.
stories that never actually happened.
Thank you very much for the responses. That was our first question. Let us turn now to our second,
was
and it
only the
comes from
first
Ishani
question.
Yep.
Mudra.
This is
I
a
took
90-minute
15
debate.
minutes.
Start studying
90
medicine at the
minutes we got to do
University
this
of
for.
Manchester. How will the parties ensure I can graduate into a
What
fully
the
functioning
hell?
NHS?
She's
Thank
about
you, Ishani. So
4.
just about to start studying
she ask?
medicine at Manchester University. Daisy Cooper.
Well, first of all, really good luck. I hope it goes incredibly well. We need lots of people
Can she
signing
stop
up
talking
and
now?
studying to become the medics and our NHS staff of the future. Look, under the Conservatives, our health and social care services have been driven into the ground. And the Liberal Democrats have a very clear plan as to how to
Hold
fix
on.
this. We're going to fix the front door to the NHS with 8,000 more GPs,
Who's gonna
giving
fix
you
it
a
in
guarantee of an appointment
Wales?
within 7 days. We're going to put an end
Labour.
to dental
Who's gonna
deserts.
fix it
We'll have a
in
mental health
SNP?
community hub
In
in every
Scotland?
single community.
Probably
and we've made a very
Labour.
bold pledge
Yeah.
to
But the
fix
problem
and to
is-
offer free personal
problem is,
care. That
who
means you can
broke it
see, you can get the help
in
you
Wales?
need when you need it.
I
We can
know
fix
why
the
she
back
speaks.
end
Right,
to
so
the
we've got a
NHS
question in the
by
chat.
making sure that if you need
Says,
to leave
why is she
hospital, there will
speaking
be
so
care
fast?
in
What's
place.
the
Because
total
she's
annual
never
cost of all the
done this
changes you're
before
making?
and she's
Yeah.
nervous
we have
as
set
hell.
out
Why? She's
in our
shit
manifesto
bricks.
exactly how every single
she's
pledge
doing- she
is going to
could
be
do a Joe
funded.
Biden
But we said
right there,
right
right
across
now.
the piece, across all
Yeah.
of our policies, we will not tax struggling families during a cost of living crisis, but we will be looking to those really big companies raking in billions of pounds of of profits to support struggling families and to fix our public services.
Health is, of course, a devolved issue, devolved to the UK nation.
Yep.
Stephen Flynn, you are in your party's in charge of health in Scotland. It is a time of record waits
Fully
and
devolved.
and high numbers of
Betty
people
blames
waiting,
it
for
on
example, 12 hours or
Westminster
more
cutting the
in
budget.
A&E or 24 months for treatment. How would you ensure that Ishani graduates into a fully functioning NHS?
Yes, well, Ishani, good luck to start with. As someone who was under the care of the NHS from the age of 14 to 32, because I was a disabled man, and I physically wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for the wonderful treatment that I received from the NHS. I know what it is to live in chronic pain, and I know what it is to have that chronic pain removed. And it's only thanks to the NHS that happened, which is why in Scotland we don't just have record funding, we don't just have the best paid nursing staff, we don't have no strikes, we don't have a single NHS strike in Scotland.
Don't forget to hit the like button.
Of the best performing NHS levels in Scotland as well. But given that you're going to university to study medicine, I think it's also important to remind everyone in this audience
not come out a communist.
The SNP and the Westminster parties, because in SNP-controlled Scotland, you wouldn't pay a single penny in tuition fees for your studies. What a difference!
But you will come out a communist
and your future.
You do accept that you have record waits for treatment at the moment, and that there are very high numbers of people waiting 24 months or waiting sometimes as long as 24 hours in A&E.
And indeed, nobody would seek to dismiss the challenges which exist in our NHS right across these islands, primarily driven through two issues. One, the backlog from COVID, but secondly, the austerity agenda which is impacting us from Westminster and has done over the course of the last 14 years. And there's £18 billion of cuts coming down the line, agreed to by Angela Rayner and Penny Mordaunt. The Tories and the Labour both know that they're going to cut public sector investment.
That's going to
have dramatic consequences on the NHS in the devolved nations, because as Wes Streeting himself said, when it comes to NHS waiting times,
and diversity and inclusion managers.
It's why the
fire them all.
Coming down the line aren't acceptable.
Fire them all.
Their stance.
Angela Rayner, cuts coming down the line.
Well, that's not true, because we've said that we'd end the non-dom.
That's not true, because I said so.
We would end the non-dom loophole so that we can bring that money in and have 40,000 new appointments every week.
But you're familiar with what Stephen is referring to. The IFS saying that both of your parties are not being honest because of the promises
we're
that made to bring debt down.
In the NHS. And then, Ashani, thank you for studying in Manchester. I'm biased, but I'd say it's the greatest city.
Thank you for studying in Manchester.
Since the Tories took power, I was a home care worker, and I represented public sector workers across the North West and nationally, and the decimation of the social care services and the infrastructure around community services has actually not only left us without that community care, but it costs more
going on the bingo card.
Far too many people, especially our older generation. We've just been talking about D-Day and our veterans. They're on trolleys for hours on end, not getting the care they need, but it costs more money to do that. So we would put home care services in. It costs less to do that.
I'll tell you what, the growler is making me tired.
Appointments every week in the NHS by making sure we close that non-dom tax loophole.
Brit Bates says that.
£18 billion fiscal gap, which the Institute for Fiscal Studies says
Brit Bates says Angela's good for a sponge bath. Then
the Labour Party and the Conservative Party in relation to this, you need to explain to the public how you are going to close that gap without making NHS services worse.
We have been very clear that
here we go, non-dom
efficiencies as well, so we can have technologies. We would have technologies that will come in. We all know that that would help. We've said about closing the non-dom tax
there we
loophole,
go.
which would give us more appointments, whether that's through dentistry, GP, and with hospital appointments. We have the record number of waiting lists in the country now,
please.
and all roads lead to the Tories and what they've done to our public services.
And how is your fiscal plan different?
Let's get Penny Mordaunt to respond to that.
I mean, they have destroyed our public services.
Second only to Portsmouth, and we're just about to have both a dental school and a medical school very shortly. And good luck with your studies. Your future colleagues
Penny,
are
your dental school is going to help me and people like me, isn't it, Penny?
Workload of about 43%. That's the legacy of the pandemic that we have to deal with. So the
legacy of your shutdown of the economy, you bloody surfer hair bitch.
We need a strong economy to do that, and public spending is going to go up. It will go up, and for the NHS, very
She looks like she's going to the beach, doesn't she? She's got my surfer hair on?
platform who have ever cut the NHS budget
Ba, 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 ba,
in
ba,
Wales.
ba,
They've
ba,
cut
ba.
it 4 times, and that's why their waiting lists are 4 times longer than they are in England.
NHS
Not only
Housewife?
can you
now
not
to account
afford
for ageing and
a Labour
inflation.
government, the NHS can't afford it either. But the second thing we also need to do is increase the number of healthcare professionals we have. We have been doing that. We have 70,000 more nurses, for example. But we need to retain people in the service. We've got to take the stress off people, but we also have to remove barriers to them continuing
You do
in service.
acknowledge, don't you,
Labour's
that the
plans
pandemic is not
to tax
completely
your
part of
future
waiting
pension,
lists. They were rising
senior
before.
nurses and
Shalini,
doctors
she
going to
is
get
vile.
healthcare professionals to leave the service. That is going to lead to more waiting
Penny,
lists.
that's rubbish. And you've just said that we need a strong economy. You backed Liz Truss and crashed our economy.
Oh,
You
whoa, whoa,
made
whoa,
people
No,
like
whoa,
you
whoa.
Right, no,
Even
you
Liz
sheepy
Truss on her
people.
worst
I'm going to
day
mute them,
still
right? I'm going to mute them because those sheepy people are clapping because Liz Truss did not crash the economy.
How could she have crashed the economy?
Rishi-
She didn't get
she
to
wa-
implement a budget.
Yeah, she wasn't there long enough. Rishi Sunak crashed the economy in order to take over Liz Truss's job.
And Rishi Sunak crashed the economy with furlough.
Yeah, well, yeah, he did that beforehand, but
Yeah.
he deliberately crashed the economy by calling up his banker chums and saying, make a run on the pound, and let it drop so as we can get rid of Liz, and I'll take a post.
Is absolutely clear. The NHS should.
Why
and must
are
remain
you
free at
here?
the point of need. Another key principle for me and Plaid
He's got the
Cymru
right to
is
be there as
that
Stephen
no
Flynn.
profit should be taken
Who
out
also
of the
doesn't
NHS.
have a right
We will
to
not
be there.
consider
He
ever
was
privatising the NHS, something
an
that, of
MP
course,
in
the Conservatives want to do, but
Westminster. He was
remarkably
the leader
Labour
of a
are happy to
party
see
in
privatisation
Westminster.
within the NHS now too. But, you know, we in Wales have had a double whammy. We've had the impact of the cuts
Did it
of
affect your
austerity
ears?
that absolutely
What's going
comes
on
down
with
to
that
hitting
guy's
public
ears?
services, education and health and everything,
His
plus
mum's been picking
a
him up
very
by them when
badly
he was very
managed
young, hasn't
NHS by
she?
Labour. in
I
Wales.
do want to point out that you were in a cooperation agreement with Welsh Labour until very recently, until just a few weeks ago, and we have record waiting lists in Wales.
And the NHS was in no way a part of that cooperation agreement because we do not agree with Labour's approach on the NHS in Wales. My job
It
as an
very much
opposition
was a
member
part of
is
it.
to persuade them to make some bold decisions to take us on the right
We're back
direction.
on track.
But you know what? You need more than anything, Ashani, is assurance.
You need more than
that
anything,
sustainability will be
assurance.
built in
You
for
need
the workforce
assurance.
within the NHS.
Where's
Workforce
John gone?
planning and giving you the support through your pay packet one.
He's
with
ran
all those other
away.
means that show that
He
you
left
are
me to
valued as a
deal
health
with
worker.
his...
Nigel Farage.
Right,
Whether
here we go.
it's Labour run
Here's-
Wales or
let's see
SNP
what
run Scotland or
Nigel's got to
Conservative run
say.
England, we all know that whilst you can get great care, the NHS model isn't working. You can't get GP
Correct.
appointments, things that we've all grown up taking for granted. And they can argue about it's all money. I'm going to spend more money. You're going to spend more money. It doesn't
It's
work.
the amount
Just a
of
few years ago,
people
we were
using
spending
it.
7.5%
That's
of the
what
national
it is.
cake on the NHS. We're now spending over 11% of the national cake on the NHS.
So the answer to Ashani's question, how would you ensure she graduates into a fully functioning NHS?
NHS. Well, I'm going to answer it. Because the more money we spend, the less delivery we get, which means the model is wrong. The model through which we fund health is wrong.
So
And
this is Nigel telling us he doesn't believe in the NHS. This is what he's doing. He's telling the public he does not believe in the NHS.
No,
Let
I'm
him
telling you,
finish,
I'm
you
telling you, the funds we
chrome
raise,
dome
that is what-
moron.
And you in Scotland, of all places, I mean, look, the NHS is very badly run. Let's change the funding.
we'll
model.
not be
Would you
taking
like
any
more
lectures
private?
from
You'd
you,
like more
Nigel.
private
Want to invest in our NHS, not crush it.
let's change the model. Now, the NHS, it isn't funded through national insurance. That's a nonsense. It goes into the pot. There are countries right next door to us. There's one country, France, that has a very, very different way of funding the NHS. It's rather like those that can afford, through their taxes, pay into an insurance scheme. Those that can't afford it don't pay in, so it's for the mutual benefit of everybody, and it's managed as if it was a private company, and their returns on stroke, heart and cancer are better than ours for exactly the same sum of money.
The King's
we get a
Foundation-
fully functioning
They're actually
NHS.
much-
King's Foundation,
much better than
Spend
those.
our
which
money
is a
properly,
respectable...
and we're not spending our money properly, and that's the point.
Daisy, you'll have to make it very brief because I need to get to Carla
The
Dennis.
Hill
who hasn't had a
Foundation,
say
the
on
King's
this.
Fund have done an analysis of different funding models. They don't materially make a difference to people's health outcomes. What makes a big difference, most of all,
John,
is the
you bet
amount of
it's
money
too
you put
early
into
to
your
start
health
on the
service.
booze.
And
No,
the
no,
It's too early.
Come on,
Independent
I can't.
It works. Let's learn
I've
from it.
done
like
well
to
to
hear
hold
from
off
Carla
for
Dennis.
half an hour.
It's too
And the
early,
Green
John.
Party, the party
It's-
that's
I'm
ready
going.
to be
I've gone for
honest about the need for investment, because Ishani, you're quite right to
the
ask
little
the question,
boy's talking
and
again.
thank you for stepping into this important vocation. The NHS has been chronically underfunded for decades. It's on its knees. This cannot be allowed to continue. Most of us agree about that. But the answer is not, as the Conservatives and, surprisingly, Labour think, to invite big multinational companies further into our National Health Service. The answer is investment and protecting our NHS.
And the money comes from?
Well, we announced our health and social care policy just yesterday, and that included a £30 billion increase in funding for our health services, 20 billion on social care, and it's really important that we understand how closely those are linked, because if we have better social care, it takes the pressure off the NHS, and a one-off £20 billion capital investment.
These are large sums.
They
come from where?
These aren't large sums in
reforming
comparison to the
because currently
NHS.
the UK tax system is unbelievably unfair. It puts more onus on lower income working people to contribute to the Treasury than it does towards the super rich, the millionaires, the multimillionaires and the billionaires. And so the Greens would make some adjustments to that system so that those with the broadest shoulders who can most easily afford to pay quite a modest amount, and that will provide plenty of funding for decent investment in public services that benefit all of us.
Okay.
I don't agree.
Denia, and thank you all. On to our next question, and this one comes from Lorenzo Barba.
Hold on.
Where I live in Essex, I'm struggling to find a house. I've noticed the roads are busier, and it's almost impossible to get a doctor's appointment. I think immigration is partly to blame. What are the parties going to do about immigration?
Thank you very much, Lorenzo, for that. And I'm going to turn first to Stephen
Lorenzo.
So I accept
They're having a
the
fucking
premise of what you're
laugh
saying
here,
in
aren't
respect
they?
of your area. I'm afraid I don't know it very well, but let me say a few home truths, particularly to some members of this panel. Migration is absolutely essential to our public services.
Here we go.
It's
Push the
absolutely
narrative,
essential to our
Stephen.
businesses.
Push
and
the
it's
narrative.
absolutely
No, it's not,
essential
mate.
to our
What
economic
are you?
growth.
Why are they applauding?
And what we need to do is end the demonisation of migration. In Scotland, we have a declining working age population despite
in
a
Western
net
Europe,
number
we have
of
a
people
declining
moving from the rest of the
working
UK
age
to
population.
Scotland. We need migrants. And this race to the bottom on migration, driven by Nigel Farage, followed by the Conservative Party and hotly chased by the Labour Party, does not serve Scotland's interests. And it does not serve your interests
Has
either.
everybody got
So
a
rise
speech
up
impediment?
against it. Do as Keir Starmer did in 2020 and talk about the benefits of migration, its importance to our fundamental aspects of life.
To be
and
clear, any voter in Scotland who wants lower
it's too
immigration
hot.
should vote for other parties.
I think any voter in Scotland who wants to impact our economy, impact our NHS, should vote for the parties who want to cut migration, which is the Labour Party, the Conservative Party and Nigel Farage. And this is a consequence of us being led down the garden path by the right wing in British politics for far too long. We need to stand against it. We need to promote our economy, promote our public services, and to do so by promoting migration.
Nigel Farage.
Well, I'm on a platform tonight with 6 other people whose parties have been wholly unconcerned with the issue of immigration. They think that to even question it somehow makes you a bad person. Let's get back to Lorenzo's question. Let's deal with some logic, shall we? From the end of the 1940s
That'd be a novelty for you.
until Mr. Blair got to power, listen to the numbers. You probably don't know them.
Cheap shot from Flynn.
For 50 years, net migration into Britain was 30 to 40,000 a year. Then Tony Blair gets in, decides to open the doors. We get net migration for the period of the Labour government of 2.7 million people come in that period. Then we get the Conservatives, elected in 2010, 2015, 2017, telling us they'll reduce net migration to tens of thousands a year. 4.3 million the Conservatives have led in. Most of those that come in are not directly productive members of the economy. Most of those that come in are actually dependents. And Lorenzo, the truth of it is, this ought to be the immigration election. Because whether we talk about housing...
Told you he was
whether
going to
we
try
talk
and make
about
it the
fact that
immigration
rents are up
election.
between 20 and 30% in most of the country in the last 4 years, whether we talk about the roads, whether we talk about infrastructure, we are living through a population crisis, an increase of 10 million people since Mr. Blair came to power, and frankly, it's making us poorer, It is diminishing our quality of life, and it's nothing to do with race or any of those issues. It's to do with actually putting the interests of our communities first. We need to get net migration, and that means, by the way, people come and people go.
I bet they don't. You're right.
We need to get net migration down to an even figure for the next few years, and maybe then we can hope to catch up with housing, with health, and many of those things.
Most of those coming to the UK today are on work visas or are international.
No, about 50% of those that come are dependents. Whether they're coming with work
But the rules
visas,
are changing.
family,
The rules are changing.
family reunions. We've even had under the Conservatives students coming and bringing their mum. The whole thing's been unbelievable.
So don't buy this.
Unbelievable.
Stephen Flynn, you've had a say on this. Can I turn to Rena Bure-Worth, please?
Nigel Farage wants to make this an immigration election for his own self-interest. Let's change the tone.
Oh my word! Yep, the audience
of the debate on immigration.
Picked specifically to be against Nigel here, aren't they?
The bigotry of people like Nigel Farage.
Is that the best you can do?
Penny Mordaunt can't stand up to Nigel Farage because she wants her party to be like Nigel Farage.
They're the opposite.
Angela Rayner can't stand up to Nigel Farage because of the shift in her party to the right. Plaid Cymru will stand up. Of course we need
the shift to the right.
Of course we need rules on borders. Wales controlled its own borders during COVID. That's what countries do.
No, you didn't. You illegally stopped English people coming in and illegally stopped Welsh people going to England for a pint.
Rwanda flights. We need safe passage into this country, and we need to realise that we need immigration for the interests of our health system, our care system, and our economy.
Penny Mordaunt, do you...
It's taking it off.
Hey, Amy, I had it on. I've had it on for over half an hour. I couldn't do it anymore.
Election, but it is definitely going to be a cost of living election. And one thing that we can do to help the gentleman who asked the question is about ensuring that you keep more of your money. We will cut your taxes. Labour will put your taxes up.
Not a lot of fabric there, though.
Having more agency, being able to get onto the property ladder.
You have to write it out, mate.
And Mordaunt, I am going to remind you of the question. Lorenzo's question. The problems that he set out. He said, I think immigration is partly to blame. What are the parties going to do about it?
Amy is dog meat.
Immigration is too high. And what we need to do is have a balance between some of the issues that have been raised already. The best way to do this is to get Parliament, your Parliament, elected by you, to have an annual cap. What that will do is take into account the economic needs, the needs of the workforce, but also the pressures that immigration puts on communities, as the question made very clear. That will be informed by experts, but it will be Parliament that decides. And because the numbers are too high, over the next few years, you can see it will come down. That is a clear plan, a clear guarantee. We've already ended free movement. We've done many things. That is the logical next step. That's what you get with us. Unlike Labour, who have no plan, they have no target, they have no clue, they haven't done any of the work on the workforce, they've had 14 years to work this out, they have nothing to offer you. Controlled numbers and a cap under us, or uncontrolled immigration under the Labour Party.
How have you got
and let's let Angela Rayner respond to that charge of having no plan. Your party's only said that there'll be a significant cut, but there are no numbers.
My camera is going a bit mad.
I love the spin on that. 14 years and you failed, trebled net migration figures. But what I would say to Lorenzo is that the problems with housing,
closing it down and reopening it for a minute.
GPs and non-public services is decimation that the Tories have done to our public services.
Your leader campaigned for free movement. Keir Starmer has spent most of his life campaigning for free
I am
movement.
still here.
These guys are not going to control immigration.
And we've said that the Rwanda scheme, look, yesterday, 300 people arrived on a boat. One was a 6-month-old baby. They could have died going over the crossing. We've said we need a new border command.
How often do babies actually arrive?
300 for the whole year, by the way.
Barely ever.
Those numbers are small compared to legal migration.
We would scrap the Rwanda scheme. We would put that money into a border force command,
You're
which will be
talking about
able to
something
smash the
completely
gangs,
different.
because we need to do that.
Smash
And
the gangs.
14
How you
years
gonna
as
smash the gangs?
Conservatives, they're relying on overseas to fill our skill shortages because we haven't got an industrial and skills strategy. Labour will put one in place so that we can fill the gaps and make sure that we have
Follow
people
the
in those jobs.
plan.
People
got one
come
in
to this
place.
country
Follow the
and they're
plan.
propping up many of our
a plan.
services because
Follow
we
the plan.
haven't trained the people to do that.
But the
This
tragedy of
is
this-
how
the-
Labour want to plan.
The tragedy of this is that Labour wants more and more to talk the language of the Conservatives and, dare I say, Nigel Farage. Keir Starmer said the other day that, you know, Rishi Sunak was the most liberal Prime Minister when it comes to immigration.
They can talk our language all they like. They're not
I'd like to
gonna
hear
back it
now
up with
Well,
action.
talk
from
over each
Carla
other.
Denyer and from Daisy Cooper.
So,
Well, one at a
Lorenzo, your
time.
question started by saying, talking about houses, roads and GPs. We need to build 150,000 social homes a year to tackle the crisis in our housing. The roads are in a mess because the Conservatives have cut local authority budgets between 25 and 40%. That's why public services are on their
Roads
knees.
are in
And the
a mess.
Conservatives promised at the last general election to recruit
We've got a
6,000
picture that
GPs. We
proved
now
it
have
in all
fewer
them.
GPs per head right across our country. That's why our public services are on their knees.
So
and
is
that's
he
why we're
wrong to
struggling.
say that he thinks immigration is partly to blame?
But I would say that actually it's to do with the Conservative choices, because at the same time as eroding all of that investment, they've made choices to give a tax cut to the big banks. But on the issue of immigration, I would say the Conservatives have made a complete mess, both of migration system, but also of the asylum system.
wouldn't
And we
it
have
be
the worst
lovely?
of both
Wouldn't
worlds.
it be
We have
lovely
people
if we
who are
could
desperate, who are
actually
fleeing
hear
war and
from
persecution,
people
arriving on small boats. And at the same time, we
that
have our
would tell
NHS, our
us-
social care, we have hospitality and engineering. None of them
rather
can
than
recruit the staff
rabbiting
that we
on
need,
about
the
how
skills
bad the
to
other
boost our
party
economy.
is.
So Liberal
I'm going
Democrats said on
to-
care in
Tell us what
particular,
they were
we
gonna
should
do.
give care workers
I'm going to
a higher
disappear
minimum
for 2
wage,
minutes. I will be
£2
back.
higher, invest in our care workers, give them status, give them progression in the workforce. And then when we still have skills gaps, invite people in from other countries and welcome them when they come.
Okay. Carla Denyer, what would the Green Party do about immigration?
First of all, reflecting back to what Nigel Farage said, how cold-hearted do you have to be to not want people who are coming here on work visas to be able to bring their husbands or wives or infant children with them? The Green Party takes...
You would not want to cut immigration?
The Green Party takes a totally different approach to immigration.
Of course it does.
When it's hard to get an affordable home, when it's hard to access public services like a GP, when the roads are poorly maintained, I can absolutely understand, Lorenzo, why you're angry about these things. I am too. But I am clear that the reason for these services being run into the ground is not people coming here, whether they're coming here fleeing violence and persecution as asylum seekers, or whether they're coming here
Economic
to
migrants.
work in many of our understaffed sectors like health and social care. If you meet a migrant in the NHS, they're more likely to be treating you, as I was the last time I saw a GP, than being ahead of you in the queue.
An audience. It's like, there must be a
Migration's
guy
been
standing there
a
with a
good
board
thing
going,
for this
clap,
country.
clap.
And so in the Green Party, our immigration policy is not about arbitrary numbers. That's why we're not talking about caps. Instead, it's about making our immigration system fairer and more humane.
Carla Denyer, thank you very much. So we still
How
have
many
quite a few
Turkish
more
barbers do
questions
you
to
have in
come.
your
Meanwhile,
town?
I want
If you
to
have less than
mention
5,
that
it's
online on the
actually
BBC Live
a
page, our
sin.
colleagues at BBC
And there should
Verify
be
are
more.
fact-checking the
We will
claims that are
import
made
more
here
Turkish
on
people
stage.
to
And
run
let
more
us turn with
barber
that
shops
to
and
our
launder
next
more
question,
money
which is
for
from
you.
Suzanne Ollerton.
My husband and I both work. We've got good jobs and we're not eligible for benefits. Our lifestyle isn't extravagant. What we earn goes on gas, electricity, mortgage and food.
Who wrote your
We are working to survive, not live. This isn't sustainable. Who will change things for working people?
Thank you, Suzanne, for your question. Brina Purworth.
Change is a key word. It's a change election, isn't it? The sadness is there'll be a change in Downing Street. I'm quite sure that Keir Starmer will become the Prime Minister in 4 weeks' time. But what change does that represent? I will always argue that you need a plurality of voices making the case for exactly what you're looking for. What are the answers when you have two parties converging on public spending? Converging on taxation. Who's going to make sure that you're able to see the investment in housing for your children, to see the investment in getting rid of the two-child benefit cap
I thought
in
he was
order
gonna
for
say
parents
get
to be
rid
able
of the
to
two
look after their
cats.
children and take children out of poverty. I
Get
believe
rid
that
of
the
the-
real
get rid of
frustration
the
in
horse.
this election is the lack of change on offer from the Labour Party. Whether you liked him or not, there was a feeling. I was still working as a journalist back in the 90s when Tony Blair came in. At least there was a feeling of something different.
And nobody
happening.
trusted
I'm
you
just
then
not
either.
sensing that, which
yeah,
is why
I mean,
we
you're
in
right,
Plaid
Tony,
Cymru
people
say
are
the Tories are gone. Labour are going to come into power. But let's, for goodness sake, make sure that people who feel ignored, as you do, are heard by that Labour Party when they came in, because change has to mean something. And that's what's important.
Angela Rayner.
And what it's going to mean for you, me, and everybody else is complete and utter financial destitution, by the
no
way.
vote cast at this general election, and Susanna, absolutely understand what you're saying. The cost of living, you can't escape.
I am exasperated, Emma. I am.
Liz Truss crashed the economy, which sent mortgages going sky high. We've been at the mercy of the global energy prices, and therefore energy prices have gone significantly high for people, and also food prices. So Labour's first
Adam, it can get way worse. It can get way worse.
With public finances, because it's working people who are paying the price for that. And Great British
It can get way worse.
a windfall tax on the big oil and gas companies,
And providing nothing for us.
Company, which will give taxpayers money back.
It's not an energy company.
For the future, and create thousands of jobs here in the UK. That is real change.
She's lying about Great British Energy again.
For working people, and the Tories should never be allowed to forget that the reason they're in the cost of living crisis now is because they crashed the economy and went fast and loose with the public.
Oi, Ginger Growler! The reason we're in a cost of living crisis is because you and your party voted to agree with lockdowns. You liar!
And
you all did it, all of you.
People have been going through. It's exhausting, and we need to bring it to an end. We have supported people through some very difficult times. That has been expensive, but we are now in the recovery. The economy is doing much better. We're outperforming America on growth. We're outperforming Europe on inflation. Those are your achievements.
But inequality continues to get worse.
I mean, that's a very good point, Britt, mate. A very good point indeed.
That is why this election must be about us cutting your taxes. We have already started doing that, and you have already heard some announcements. You'll see more in our manifesto next week. We have got to cut people's taxes, and we have got to alleviate burdens on business. Angela Rayner and the Labour Party.
Mrs. Spy just said that Mordaunt looks like she just put her finger in a socket.
By £2,000 per working household.
You don't want to get her
have raised taxes to the record level in 70 years.
Yeah, we have.
Come on, Growler, come on!
We have now been cutting taxes. We will continue to cut taxes. The country can afford it.
You're using
£2,000.
Oh, here we go.
You're using a figure that's been criticised by the UK Statistics Watchdog.
Costings and Labour's
Why don't you stand by your record? Record levels of taxes on working people. 26.
Can't fight, can't fight, can't fight, can't fight, can't fight.
Taxes.
Wheels are paddling pool in a stock of mud when you need one.
We will not raise taxes.
I will say this, Growler and Mordaunt have far more passion in them than Richie and Sama, don't they?
Per working household.
I think they should stick to the waist and fight like
Are you
men.
going to take out of your manifesto?
Which one is how we would pay for our manifesto?
Okay, it's time to hear from the others. Angela Rayner, it's time to hear from the others.
You better be a bit more
Terribly
forceful,
dignified,
doll.
wasn't it?
Well, she's not moderating the right thing, she's rubbish.
She can't moderate.
You don't have to be an economist.
I bet
to see
beforehand
that our
Angela
economy
came
is
up to her,
not
pulled her in and
working
went,
for the majority of people.
hey, you know what?
If
you cut me off, I'll show you my Ginger Growler.
You might more accurately describe it as an inequality crisis, because actually some people in this country have been doing very, very well. Some people got substantially wealthier during the pandemic, while many of the rest of us struggled.
Shalini, I was going to say she a sister.
We could have well-paid jobs, secure jobs, and a welfare system that really acts as the safety net we need to catch people when they fall. A green economy would create jobs.
No, it
wouldn't.
wouldn't.
All over the country, for example,
No,
our nationwide
it
home insulation
wouldn't.
program, which would bring down everyone's bills, help with the cost of living in the here and now.
Sorry,
give us
Shalini, I
warmer,
love
more
you.
comfortable homes, create hundreds of thousands of green jobs, and support local businesses. And the Greens would provide a real safety net, starting with a £15 minimum wage for all ages, removing the ageist cap on young working
And then you know what happens? More people end up out of work.
Yeah, because you can't afford to employ people. Because
you can't afford
that's
it.
exactly how.
Conservatives
That's how
and
we
Labour's
end.
party
That was
support,
one of the
even though it
reasons
holds
why the Germans had to
250,000
Let me. Could you mute the little boy for a minute?
I have to say, I think a lot of working people like you feel quite resentful.
Hold on, we'll let
The harder you
Nigel speak.
The more taxes you pay, the less disposable income you have, and yet there are increasingly people opting just not to work, and that number has rocketed over the course of the last few years. So I understand how you feel. Your energy bills are too expensive. They have been for the last 20 years. Why? Because we load money, we load tax onto your energy bill to give to wind farm companies. It's kind of the poorer in society giving to the richer in society. Rents, cost of housing, too high. That links back to the previous question. The population explosion has made housing, whether you buy them or rents, too expensive. Reducing net migration to zero would ease that. Getting rid of those subsidies on your energy bills would ease that. But the big one's taxes. You know, even during Tony Blair's time, the top rate of tax was 40p in this country, and it was paid by 1.5 million people. By the end of 2027,
That's too high. I'm sorry,
8
but it
million
is.
people will be paying 40p tax.
That's
So we're
theft of
dragging more and
40%
more
of your
people
money.
doing middle-income jobs into higher and higher taxation. And that's why life is so tough. And to hear Penny Mordaunt, whose government have put the tax burden up to the highest in this country since 1948, pretending they're a tax-cutting party, frankly, it is dishonesty on a breathtaking scale.
Stephen Flynn.
Okay.
How is he not getting
I'm
applauded for
incredibly
that?
sorry
got applauded
to
there.
hear about the challenges that
Right,
you faced.
mute
and
the Scott.
It's the same for millions of people right across these aisles, and it's
Because
simply
he's not going to be able to do any taxation for the whole of the country. But what people let me just explain it in layman's terms. A £15 minimum wage, as Amy says in the chat, they did a $20 minimum wage in California, and now thousands more people are out of work because two things have to happen in order to you're muted, John.
You said mute the Scott.
Yeah, not you, that one. But two things have to happen in order for a business a business to be able to sustain a £15 / that would be more than $20, but minimum wage, and that is they have to put their prices up so that they can cover the shortfall in one hand, and in the other hand, they have to let people go.
Yeah.
They have to let people go, and that's why my local fish and chip shop has now got one of them order screens. You know, like you get in McDonald's.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, latterly when we were trying to run the gym with 2 people, my wife being one of them, because we couldn't afford to take on staff.
No, because you keep putting up the minimum wage and you pile that burden onto entrepreneurs and small business owners. If you're championing small business, the last thing you want to do is raise the minimum wage to an unsustainable level, because you're going to destroy small business. As simple as that.
If you want to apply a minimum wage, you need to apply a minimum amount of employees before it takes effect.
I actually think that could be a good idea, yeah. Look at the face on Growler.
The SNP will provide it.
Daisy Cooper, earlier Stephen Flynn mentioned the austerity years. Your party was alongside the Conservatives in the first part of that.
Well, Liberal Democrats fought the Conservatives every single day in coalition, and we just have to look at the damage that the Conservatives have done on their own since 2015. Not only has there been Brexit, but there has been
Do you remember,
this awful mini budget. And to go back to Suzanne's question, I speak to
I'm not going to go there.
People in your situation, people who play by the rules, people who work hard, people who pay their taxes, and they've almost got nothing to show for it. And on top of that, when they go to use their public services, everything feels broken. Nothing works.
But once again, you, the Liberal Democrats, were in government.
Windfall tax on the big oil and gas companies, because we saw the raw injustice
Yeah!
of these big companies raking
She's
in
waving her
billions of
fist.
pounds of profits when ordinary folk
Amy's
couldn't
off to
afford to
dip the
pay their
sheep.
energy bills. That is one example of how we will tax
About
fairly
time.
in this country.
We will need to move on now to our next question.
Dapper
Thank you all for
politicians
your
while you're at
responses
it.
to that one. And our next question comes from Linda Myers.
Bye, Amy.
Good evening. Why is it when
Hi, Linda.
parties want your vote, they promise things, but when they're elected, nothing gets done?
Oh, is somebody realising something?
No, that's just like...
Penny Mordaunt.
Well,
Come on, Penny.
this is
You got
why
this. You got
the
this,
Prime
Penny.
Minister made the very clear pledges that he did, and you can measure
What, to
the
turn your
progress
kids into
being made
slaves?
against them. We are making progress in this country. We have been through some very hard times,
Progress
but the
on what,
recovery
Penny?
is there. What we must ensure
What
is
recovery?
that
I
that
ain't
is not
feeling it.
choked off, and we must ensure that your taxes are being lowered. That is the pledge that we make to you.
She's just
And
gonna
that is what we have been doing with national
You
insurance
haven't.
cuts that we have seen this year. That is what you need. It's not just your taxes
national
that I'm
insurance
worried
cut
about.
that
I'm
makes you
worried
20
about my
quid a year
constituents
better off.
being able to
It's gonna
afford
make a
a Labour
fucking huge
government.
amount of
Angela
difference, isn't
mentioned GB energy. Do you know what the GB stands for? It stands for giant bills. And more bills are coming with the net zero plans.
It's
Of
not
course.
an energy company.
That
It's
is
an
the
inv-
most
it's an
important
investment
thing, because
vehicle.
everything depends
Yep.
on you having that disposable income. And that is why tax is at the heart of
What
this. The
was she
pledges
in
that we are making to
Babylon 5?
you on cutting your taxes, and what Labour will not tell you about the taxes they are going to be putting
But
up.
personal
The
taxes,
manifestos
Penny
that we
Mordaunt,
have-
are still rising. Overall, they are still rising due to the freezing of
Unfortunately,
income tax thresholds
Spencer,
that you've brought in.
she's
But
immune to all
we've
of that
had some
because
very
she's
difficult
Satan.
times. We have had to spend a lot of money on things like furlough. That was the right
Oh,
thing to do, to keep
is that what
jobs and
caused the
livelihoods
cost of
going,
living
not just
crisis?
hand out
I think it
welfare
might
payments.
have
The
been.
pandemic has been expensive,
Well,
and we've
that was a
also had
massive waste of
terrible
time.
global shocks. We've had
And
to
money.
step in and pay people's energy bills. But we are coming through that thanks to your efforts. What you need now is disposable income in your pockets. You need taxes to be cut. We have announced already we're
You
making
need
cuts
to
on your
start
taxes
businesses and
regarding
register
your
them in
home,
tax
your
havens. I mean,
pension,
what?
work. We need to continue to do that. If you get us, we will reduce your taxes. That's in our DNA as conservatives. That's not what is in
I'll tell
Labour's
you what,
DNA.
Chasing
They're
Dissent
all gonna
Limited-
put up
That's
taxes.
not a
They're
good
going to put
optic.
yours up by
It's in our
£2,000.
DNA.
They're gonna
Chasing
increase
Dissent
your energy
Limited will
bills,
not be
and you're gonna
registered
get a
in the
whole lot of
United
costs
Kingdom,
with their
that's
net
for
zero
sure.
plans. My constituents cannot afford that.
Okay.
You
Penny-
cannot afford
Penny
that.
Mordaunt, well, I'm going to stop you there. And I'm
Chasing
also going to
Dissent
point out that the
Limited,
top
if
civil
we get
servant
to
in the
that,
Treasury
will
said
never
that the
be
Conservative
broadcasting from
document
the
that
United
included
Kingdom either.
the costs that you're referring
No.
to went beyond those provided by the civil service. Nigel Farage.
Well, Linda, I have to say, I think this has been one of the worst general election campaigns so far between the two main parties I've ever seen in my lifetime. It isn't just that their leaders are dull, don't clearly, well, very dull in the case of Labour. I mean, sort of Blair without the flair. I mean, the real leader of the Labour Party is here tonight on the stage. At least she's got some personality. We've got Rishi Slippery Sunak. You know, he's fed all
I
the
already
lines
said
to Penny
this.
Mordaunt. Don't believe any of it.
He's hitting
I think
on
it isn't just
Angela.
our public services that are broken. I think our political model is broken. The arguments that are going on the other side of the
Me
room
too!
Well, the truth is, they don't really disagree on anything. Fictitious numbers like £2,000, £3,000. And that's why reform have risen so quickly in the polls. There is a sense we need a revolt against this system. We need an electoral system where we get some proportional representation in
I think he's
Parliament.
right there.
We need to break up the current model. If we get a new kind of politics in Britain, we might just get some real change. What we're being offered, frankly, are two parties promising the earth, and nothing much will change regardless of who gets in. Although I
Correct.
think the breach of trust on manifestos with the Conservatives means they're probably sunk below the waterline. New politics, fresh start. We want a revolt from the British people. That's
But you
what I want.
can't change the system from
Angela
within the
Rayner,
system.
Has Labour gone back on any of its
I've said
pledges?
this.
Well, To be fair, it's always all about Nigel, and we've had this.
Oh,
sort of
Brit, mate, a
clown
McDonald's Vanilla's
personality before
milkshake
with
sounds
Boris
pretty good
Johnson,
right now.
who you talked about the pandemic, Penny, who was breaking lockdown rules and spending billions of pounds an
I'm going
army
to
on
remind you
crony
of the
contracts.
question. When parties want your vote, they promise things. When they're elected, none of it gets
Absolutely,
done.
and Linda's absolutely right. And I was coming back to that point because that eroded
We know
people's
she's
trust.
right, Growler.
At a time when people wanted the government to do the right thing, they didn't. They
Have you ever dropped any pledges?
They disrespected them. And we set out the pledges before the crash. The Tories have crashed the economy. That we've been honest in this election. People talked about some of the things that they would like us to do, like the 2-child limit. We have been clear. We will not promise anything that we cannot fund, and we've been absolutely clear.
You could fund
Load of shit.
The Tories have record number of
Peter Hitchens made a good point. I listened to Peter Hitchens earlier on, and he was talking to Mike Graham, and he said, if you get Labour, within the first week, they will do 3 major things to our detriment that they never spoke about.
Penny Morden, thank you. Carla Denyer, you're next.
He is going to put them up
Penny
by
Morden,
£2,000.
We're going to. I'm stopping you. Carla Denyer.
That's it again.
Thank you.
That's your.
Linda, I share your frustration. When I was younger, I had little to no
Come on,
faith
Carl.
in politics.
You got this, Carl.
The potential
When you were
to make the
younger.
country a better place. But let's remember,
Last
politics
week.
at its root is about people. It's about people's lives,
When
people's
I was
bank
a
accounts,
fetus, I remember
people's future,
well the
people's
soothing
health and
heartbeat of
happiness.
my
And that's
mother's
why, after meeting some Green Party members in my 20s, I realised that the Green Party is different. That's why
You're not in your
that's why
She's not
I
in
got
her
involved.
30s. Is
Now, as several of the other panellists have already pointed out,
If she is, she's
as
looking
Labour
pretty good on it.
drop pledge after pledge, policy after policy, slide further and further towards the Conservatives. So
Unfortunately, that doesn't help the fact that she is representing a party that will send us back to the Stone
in the House
Age.
of Commons becomes ever stronger. And in terms of
Maybe she's,
answering your question, Linda,
Peter Pan.
about parties keeping their promises, the Green Party, when I joined it in 2011, was a pretty small and young party, but we're coming of age.
How old is she?
Increased our number of councillors nearly 5-fold over the last local elections, and we're grateful to everyone who's put their trust in us.
The question was about pledges. Stephen Flynn.
If we want to talk about pledges, then in a Scottish context, I can provide you with a few that have been delivered. 100,000 children in poverty are being lifted out of. It's 100,000 children in Scotland are being lifted out of poverty thanks to what's called the Scottish Child Payment. It doesn't exist anywhere else on these isles. The SNP has put it into place. Our young people, of course, do not pay a single penny in tuition fees. We've got something which I know the audience in Scotland would love to have, which is a nationalised water company that
Are there any
delivers clean
pledges?
water.
Are there any pledges you haven't met in government?
The SNP have also
You're gonna
delivered
put fluoride
nationalised
in it,
rail,
though.
40% more affordable homes than in England, 70% more.
That's because
than
nobody
in
wants to buy
Wales.
them.
And ultimately, it's about keeping our promise to the Scottish people. But I would actually contest. I would say the Labour Party and the Conservative Party are being very honest with you about what the
It's
future
Hitman
holds. The
standing
problem is,
next to
it's
Link from
18
the
billion
Legend of
pounds worth
Zelda.
the
But you
public
said,
sector
just stop,
cuts
just stop.
and
The
a
question was on
continuation
pledges.
with
One of your
Brexit. That's
pledges,
not good
wasn't
enough.
it, that you would close the attainment gap in a decade between pupils from the richest and most deprived areas of Scotland?
didn't happen,
Today
did it?
remains considerable.
And indeed, we're making significant progress in relation to that. But of course,
Aye, we're
poverty
making
and the
significant
attainment gap
progress.
are
We're not done it.
and the
We're
legal
not done
battle
it.
over poverty are determined by Westminster because all roads do indeed lead back to Westminster.
Rena Pureworth.
Oh, those
I think
lead
Linda's
to
question is largely around
Westminster.
integrity and the loss of trust. I've been around
Why
politics
is he
for around 30
here?
years, 20 of that as a journalist. And as a journalist looking from outside,
Oh,
I
God,
could
journalist
see the
is going
apathy, I
on the
could see
bingo card.
cynicism, you know, the cynicism driven by Downing Street COVID parties.
Well,
You know, the
he's told us
cynicism
about 6
driven
times
by
already.
A leader of government in Wales accepting a £200,000 payment from a convicted environmental polluter who was looking for planning permission from the government and refusing to see that that looks wrong in people's eyes. We need to rebuild that kind of trust. And two
I
words,
preferred Lee
honesty
Evans when he did
and
stand-up,
fairness.
says
Honesty,
Spencer.
you know, the unedifying rows between the Conservatives and Labour Party here on
You know it's not
taxation
Lee
is
Evans, though, because he's
stupid.
not profusely
We have to have
sweating.
honesty about taxation. We can't drive taxation forever down and expect to have high levels of public services, can we?
Why?
And fairness,
Why
we
can't
have
you?
to have a system that protects people
Monaco
like
doesn't
you.
have any
Why should
tax.
Rishi Sunak,
One of the
on his
wealthiest
£2
countries in the
million
world.
income income largely from investments pay less tax.
In fact, the
than
top
you
10
do on
wealthiest
hard
countries
graft
in the
going
world, I
out to
don't
work
think,
during
tax
the day. That's the kind
their
of
population.
fairness, or the unfairness, I should say, within the taxation system.
And I want to
that really undermines trust.
I want to get in a word now from
politicians.
Daisy Cooper on this.
No,
We heard
we're
promise
okay.
after promise after promise from the Conservatives at the last general election. 40 new hospitals, 6,000 GPs, and all the rest. And the fact is that this Parliament has been characterised by law breaking, by lying, and by the economic illiteracy of the mini budget. And of all the things that the Conservatives have broken, the worst thing that I think they've broken is people's hope.
Do
Do you remember going back on the tuition fees pledge?
They could go away, Ben.
I don't know why the Liberal Democrats put
That's a source of
Mr. Ed
hope
up.
for us,
That's
for
all
sure.
I'm saying.
That was a very difficult decision.
I know.
But let's remember that it was the Conservatives who, in 2015, withdrew the maintenance grants for young people from the lowest backgrounds, which has now stopped many of them from going to university. But my point is that this
Make her
election
go away. I
is
don't like her.
about hope. And it is
You know,
about
between
change.
these two
Many of us
shows,
do
I'm going to
come
have to go and
politics
get
for the right
like
reason.
an
And for any
absolute
of you
gallon
who
of
have seen the
water.
party political
I'm dying
broadcast by
here.
Ed Davey talking about his experiences as a carer for his disabled son, you will be in no doubt that he is in politics for the right reason and that we are committed to fixing the NHS.
Thank you all. And I'm going to go to our next question,
That's
which is from
two
Lucy
people.
Hobday.
Oh, we got a new
Remember
question.
disabled.
We've got a new question.
you more, economic growth or successful climate policy?
Thank you very much,
Economic
Lucy, for that
growth.
question. Nigel Farage.
Well, it depends what those climate policies are. And at the moment, we're pursuing completely unrealistic climate policies. I mean, the Labour
Agreed.
pledge to decarbonise the grid by 2030 will not happen, just as the Conservative pledge to decarbonise the grid by 2035 will not happen. Not only is it impossible, it's actually unaffordable. So we have to be grown up and sensible. If we get new technologies that give us cheaper energy or better ways of manufacturing things, that's great. But what we're doing in this country is we're sacrificing economic growth. We've been massacring British manufacturing. And we say to ourselves, isn't it marvellous?
It's marvellous.
We've reduced carbon emissions more than any other Western country.
Why
But
is
we haven't.
the troll
All we've
sounding
done is
like
to
the adult in the
export
room here?
Carbon emissions when our steel works
This
go to
is- this
India,
is- this is
or
so
our car
backwards.
manufacture moves to China or to
Hey,
Turkey
it's
or wherever it is.
Turkey.
We're living in a complete fool's paradise on all this. I
Welcome
mentioned
to the
earlier to
scene,
the lady
Ed
at the
the
back about the
Techie.
cost of living.
Hello.
You know, we've been
How's it
chucking
going?
20%
It's
on
going
people's
all right.
electricity
I'm losing the
bills
will
now
to
for
live
20
here.
years
Yeah, it's
to pay
I'm not
for
surprised.
very inefficient
That's why I
wind
didn't
energy.
come on at
So
7:30.
what's really happening with net zero? What's happening with the attempt?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Ed the Techie.
Because we produce less than 1% of the world's.
Hello, everyone. How's it going?
The Chinese are building 80
So have you
new
been watching us
coal-fired
at
power
all, Ed?
stations
No?
every year.
I haven't. I just had
We
dinner.
should not. We should
Well,
not
right now, the
forget
troll,
we're gonna
i.e.
need oil and
Nigel
gas for the
Farage,
next
is
30
sounding
years.
like the
We will
adult
be
in the
using
room.
oil
It's
and
all
gas
Thank you,
backwards.
Nigel Farage.
So let's just
I'm going to turn
just
to
be sensible
Carla
about
Denyer
what we
next
do.
on
Net
this
zero
topic.
is a bad policy and it's bad for people.
What matters to you more, economic growth or successful climate policy? Was the question.
Economic
Carla Denyer.
bloody
Nigel was
growth.
gonna keep your
Just
fact
say
checkers busy
it.
for a little while.
Just say
Nigel
it.
Farage has been misleading you. I'm an engineer. I used to work in the renewable
Oh,
energy
shut
sector.
up.
Very
Hold
well.
on a
Of
minute.
course you're an
So much of what
engineer.
you said
You
there
Fucking Walter
is
Mitty,
simply
isn't she?
untrue.
She's that guy. She's
Let
like
me
that
guess.
guy.
She's the
Everyone
Green
knows that they can't
candidate.
trust the Conservatives or reform when it
Was
comes
it
to climate
Agag
change.
Nib,
That's part
the
of the
guy
reason
that
why the
decided-
Conservatives are on their way out.
Is she
of
so
the general
unrecognisable
election.
that she actually has to wear
But what
green
people
just
are
so
saying
that
to
everybody
me on the
knows she's
doorsteps in my
green?
home city of
Remember
Bristol
that
and
guy? Was
elsewhere
it Agag?
is that they're sorely disappointed in the Labour Party too.
Right,
who've
I'll be back in like 2 minutes. I need water. I'm going to die.
Climate investment pledge, one of the few good
Do you remember
policies
that
they
movie
have
with
left.
Tom Hanks?
When it's
not Tom
totally
Hanks,
clear
I
that
can't
we
hear
need to
myself
tackle the
think
climate
with that
crisis,
silly
and
bitch
doing
babbling in the
so
background. What
brings
did you
so
say?
many other benefits.
Right, do you remember that movie with the guy Agag Nib, who pretended to be like a pilot and a surgeon and all that, and he was only like 18 or 17 years old. He wasn't old enough to do any of this stuff. He was just a right Walter Mitty character. She's a bit like that, you know. I'm an engineer. I've done this. I've done that.
Well, Keir's a bloody toolmaker. If you have to try and prove that you're one of the working people, then you're not one of the bloody working people.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
and it's just they're so out of touch, and they're so blinded by their own nonsense and ideologies and propaganda, and the narratives that they all have to follow, because they can't have an independent thought about Ukraine, they can't have an independent thought about climate change or Russia or anything.
I think it was a bit of an inspired move by BBC to get Jenna Coleman to present it, though.
I pay so little attention to the BBC that I don't even know who she is.
I don't think it is Jenna Coleman.
I have no idea.
And
I mean,
being
you could
facetious.
put a you
You're
just
not a Doctor Who fan, no?
no. It was all, no. I love my sci-fi, but Doctor Who was just one thing I could never really get my head around. It's all a bit too cheap and silly.
Let's leave him out. So they started off by slagging Rishi Sunak for leaving the celebrations early yesterday. And in my view, Rishi Sunak should not have been there, because Rishi Sunak is not an elected MP any longer.
Well,
there are no elected MPs any longer because of Parliament has been dissolved, so nobody's an MP. The only person that's left in office is the Speaker of the House of Commons. He should have been the only person that went there to represent the UK.
I think they were all offensive to the memory of the dead, personally.
Yeah, I think they are.
I mean,
when
they're currently giving money to some of the people that those brave men were fighting against, I think it's an obscenity.
I know. Ben's back, and I'm going to play a small video, Ben. You won't hear us yet. Hold on. I'm going to play a small video. Just it's only a few seconds long, but I think it's I'm going to play a small video, Ben, to lighten the mood.
I've come back in and Growler's looking stern. What's going on?
I don't know. We haven't been listening. I'm going to play a small video just to lighten the mood. Okay, it'll only be 20 seconds or so.
But we're missing the debate.
Don't see it. We didn't see any of that.
Nope.
À raconter ces mots, souvent on les
But you put
soulage.
it behind the debate.
Yeah.
You freaking idiot. Right, okay, I'll play it again.
We don't have to.
You see it now?
That's just puerile. That's not lightning anything. That's
À raconter ces mots,
I think the
souvent on
only
les soulage.
person that made laugh, John, was you.
Yeah, I liked it. There's nothing wrong with a bit of.
Put the chill. Oh God, Mr. Ed's talking again. What's he got to say? Come on, I want to hear it.
Emergency. We can do both, hand in hand. We really can. So take the example of having a home insulating scheme, an emergency home insulating scheme. That would not only reduce our energy usage, which would be good for the climate.
It's so wildly
reduce our energy
impractical,
bills, which would be
because
good for
how
our
is that going to
pockets,
work
but it would
with
also create a
freaking
huge
listed
raft
buildings
of
and
new
stuff?
jobs
I mean, they're
as well.
idiots.
You could actually go around insulating our homes. So we can do both of them
And
hand in hand.
when
and
you
that's
insulate
precisely
them
what we
too
need
much
to do.
and there's not enough
Yeah,
insulation, it
Ed,
will go wrong anyway.
This is what happens when you send a talking horse out.
There is not a matter of making a choice in Wales, as it happens.
Why is he here?
Economic prosperity that we
Can I
need
use
to
the
build
word
a
fucktard?
brighter future for our
Oh,
country.
Yes.
I just
Hand
used
in hand
it.
with looking after the environment.
Why is this guy even
It is why
here?
Plaid Cymru calls for the devolution of the Crown Estate, as has happened
a
to
fella.
Scotland, but they won't
He's
do it to
fella.
Wales, so that we can invest in making the most of our natural
Well,
resources.
yeah,
and
the
extracting
Crown Estate
power
should
out of
be-
the
I
wind
mean, I agree with him
and the
about
tide.
that,
That's why
but-
we need to see Wales being paid the £4 billion that is owed
It's a good
of
question,
the
DW.
investment
Who
in
are
HS2
most of these
rail
people?
in England. Wales is contributing
Well, we know
towards that,
Penny.
even though there's
We know
not a
Penny.
mile of
She's
that
a
railway
sword carrier.
in Wales.
She carried
And
a
we need that in
sword,
order to
didn't she?
drive people on.
This is
public
why I don't
transport,
watch the
so,
BBC.
investing
Then
in
there's-
connectivity
we
in
know
Wales.
Angela
And you know what?
Alexander
I'm not
Gurla,
surprised
and
hearing
we
the
know
Conservatives
Farage,
refusing to make that commitment to
Frogman.
Wales, but it's galling when
And
you have a
then
Labour
Penny really
government in
doesn't.
Wales,
It's
but
Marv
Labour
from
wants
Home Alone. It is. She put.
Penny Mordaunt.
Done well, both should help the.
Oh, I
What is
dislike her. It's
critical,
Bill
though,
Gates'
is if you
creature.
want to reach net zero by 2050, you have to do it with
Just-
people.
and
You
that-
have to ensure
Do I seem-
that people
do I
can
seem
afford
quiet,
to get
audience?
there. If
I love
you
the fact
don't
that
do
Ed
that,
was
you
just
will fail
covering
to
Penny's
reach
face
the
just there.
targets.
Yeah,
We
she's just
are going
a
to do
mom.
this at a pace that people can afford.
You're not going
2050
to
sounds a
do
long way
anything,
off,
Penny,
and
because
this
you're not
election will
getting
occur in the next
elected.
5 years. At the end of this parliament,
It's
if they
actually
get
kind
in,
of
you will
kind
not
of
be able
sweet
to
that
buy
the
a petrol
Tories are.
pump. If your boiler
I guess they're
closed,
making
you'll have
a
to
half-assed
spend tens
effort,
of
but
thousands of pounds
I mean, Penny's not
on
going to be in
a
government
new
for a
heat
very
pump,
long time. She'll
other
probably
things
go
that
and get a
need
job
to
with
be
Bill
done to your home
Gates,
to convert it.
or
My constituents
I don't know, maybe
cannot
she'll take
afford
over the
that.
bloody World
You heard
Economic
about,
Forum,
because of your policy, energy.
work for
You heard
Tony
about
Blair
GB
or
Energy.
Satan
This is an
or
energy
something.
company that your money is going to be put into that doesn't produce any
Is that any
energy
better,
at
DW?
all. It
Look,
doesn't
look at
produce
Ginger
a
Growler,
drop
though.
of
She looks
energy. Oil and
absolutely
gas,
livid.
This is the
It
insanity
would be nice
of
if I could
Labour's
get a
policy.
fucking work
They are
done, but
expecting
yeah,
a load of people
just
to invest
asking if
in
I'm
oil and
more
gas
on a par
at the
yet.
same time saying
Yes.
they're not going to expand the sector. So they're not going to get the money in.
But
and the
they're
final
all,
thing,
it's all
if
just
you
blah
do
blah
this
blah,
too
bollocks,
fast,
bollocks, bollocks. I mean,
all you do is destroy
it's
our supply chain. We should be building supply chains in this country.
they're
to
just
produce batteries,
aggravating
to do all sorts
creatures.
of things.
Let's get Angela to
Penny
lead
Mordaunt
Labour
is
of
more
United
more aggravating creature than
benefits
Penny
most.
Mordaunt,
is China,
to what you've
and that
said.
will kill off economic growth.
Let's hear the response.
I mean, it's astonishing.
How much energy is it going to produce?
It's astonishing because
Come
the
on,
Tories have
Growler,
been
you
in
got
power
this.
now 14
How
years.
much energy is
And
Great
we
British
haven't
Energy
Astonishing.
going to
had an
produce?
industrial strategy or a manufacturing sector in the UK that is
You
about
just said it's going to
creating,
produce
about
I think.
Well, Mordaunt's a rude cow. 'Cause
Oh, yeah,
she's
she
the
is.
other one.
She
I
is.
mean,
Pretty important. You're flogging
I don't
energy
really want
companies,
either of them
these
to
guys.
speak,
You're
but they
expecting them
shouldn't
to put their
speak
money
over
in.
each other.
She's mid-response.
I think
Let's hear it.
Angela
Thank you.
Rayner has a tongue that's
Great
too
British
big for her
Energy
mouth.
will be an owned company by the UK
I
taxpayers.
I
that
don't
will
know. I look
bring
at there's
energy,
certain
clean
pictures
energy
of
to the country,
Keir
which
and
will bring
Andrew
down bills
together,
and
and you
give
just look at
people
them
good
looking at each
skilled
other, and
jobs.
you
We've
can't
heard from
help
the
but
Tories
thinking that,
for
that
14 years
he
that they
either
were
really
gonna do
fancies
something
her,
about skills and
and she's like
manufacturing in
stringing
this
him
country.
along,
I ask the people
or
to
something.
look
It's
at
just
their record,
it's weird.
They
Keith,
constantly
Keith,
lies that
take
we're
me
gonna
up
stop
the
people's
bakey.
cars, that we're going to do this, going to do
Keith,
that. When
you
really
know
the
as
reason
well
they
as
say
I
that
do that
is
the
their
Ginger
14
Growler's
years,
great.
Abstract failure.
And are your green policies going to be...
You have failed the British
Who's
people.
Misha?
You have
RCW says
failed the
Misha
British
is
people,
hot.
and people
Who's
can
Misha?
see
Doesn't
that.
Penny
You
ever
currently
shut
can't
up? Can't
afford
they
to
turn
pay
her
for
microphone
How
off
am
or
I
something?
Where that £2,000
It's
from
really
Oh,
you
dude,
cow.
they've been going at this
And
I'm
since we started.
working
Yeah.
on their green policies, and they're going to hit you on the cost.
And I'm
Yeah,
going to turn
she's
to
a
the next question.
freaking
at this
terrible
point.
moderator. Right,
Oh,
back
yeah,
to the
she's
back to the
shocking.
audience. Back to the audience.
Disagree, they agree.
The next question.
They're all
Next question.
Let's get the
just
next question.
awful people.
It's from Nick O'Donnell.
It's a, but
Oh,
the
Nick, let's
producer-
hear what Nick's got to
As a
say.
father with a young son about to start secondary school,
Oh,
I'm
he's
concerned
trying
about
to
him going out on his
identify
own.
with everyone.
I'm particularly worried about.
Oh no,
knife
he's
crime.
a father.
How will
Sorry.
the parties make sure he's safe?
Thank you
Safe
very
from
much,
what?
Mr. O'Donnell. So how
Yeah,
will the
safe
parties
from what?
protect
Safe
future
from what?
generations
Yeah,
like
it's safe from
Nick
being sent
O'Donnell's
to
young son who's about to start
National
meat
service.
grinder.
Solidarnia?
Yeah, safe from what?
Safe from never
We all
having
have
to
the
worry
right
about
to
a
feel
mortgage.
Safe, in
Safe
our
from
homes
these
and
people
our
on the
streets.
stage.
My home city of Bristol has seen an epidemic
Safe
of knife
from
crime. One of my
never having
colleagues'
to go
friends
more than
was
15
one of those
minutes from your
victims, so
home
this
to
strikes
get
very
anything.
close to home for me.
Oh God, it's the Green
There
Goblin
are
again.
obvious
The
things
elf.
that can be done in terms of making sure
What's
that
the elf
there's
saying?
more officers out and
Heads
about.
on point
But
tonight.
the other parties will also,
Oh,
I
they're
expect,
just-
tell you that they'll be tough on crime.
How many more police
Tough
No.
on crime and
You-
tough on the
No,
causes of
surely
crime.
As you
Hold
brought
on.
policing into it.
LCW says the
manifesto will be out
moderator
soon,
is
but the
Mish.
broad points I can cover now.
Misha
Who's saying?
Hussain.
Crime
Surely, I
is
thought
a
that was Jenna
rhetoric that we hear a
Coleman.
lot from other parties. The reality is that not all crime can be tackled.
All right,
by being
RCW,
tough,
right?
and that's
You may
something
be
that
calling her
the
hot,
Green
but you have to
councillors in
realise she's been
Bristol, the
completely
largest
ineffective
council
tonight.
in in the country that's green-led are
So,
prioritising.
your point,
Because
She's not just wearing the green blazer, she got the green trousers on as well.
And she's got the suitably woke haircut too.
Of young
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
are growing up
It's
without
very, I mean,
access to the
okay,
services
it
they
was
need.
fashionable
Youth
in the
centres
80s,
are
but
being closed.
I bet she drives a transit.
Services that they need. To
probably she probably drives a
Specifically on
green
Lifetime, which is
transit
up in England and Wales by
with
8%
vote
since
green
2019.
emblazoned
Nigel
on the
Farage.
Either
side.
that or like the most polluting
search.
Range
We know
Rover she
the
can
areas in
find.
which
Range
knives
Rover.
are most prevalent. Stop and search. And of course, we don't do it. Oh gosh, if this area has got a high proportion of people from the black and ethnic minority communities, they might call us racist. We've got to stop doing this. We've got to completely forget the colour of people's skins, treat everybody equally, but we must do stop and search. We must do it in a very, very tough way. We have to have proper sentences. And it's but one area, isn't it? I mean, you can go shoplifting now, any of you. You can go out and nick up to 200 quid's worth without being prosecuted. We are seeing a decline,
Can
a
you, though?
societal
Can you?
decline.
Is Well, that
in
just
central
London?
London, for
in
sure.
This country, and frankly, government
So what
and the police
happens?
forces.
Nobody
I
stops
don't,
you.
I don't think you
do
could
what
walk
needs
into
to be done.
Waitrose
It's
or
yet
Western
another
Road
area
in
of
Brighton
Britain that is
put
broken
200 quid's
and needs
worth of
radical
stuff in the bag and walk out.
199 quid's worth of
I
stuff.
know
You'll be
many
fine, Ed.
parents who were really very scared about the safety
Well,
of
I
their,
mean, there's particularly
children.
the M&S in
It's
town here
not only
has
the
a
issue
particularly
here in
aggressive
London, but
Indian
particularly in the
security
home
guard. I've
counties
seen
on
him
county
chasing
lines
teenagers.
and
I've
down
seen
the
him
street.
chasing. But I know exactly who you're talking about.
With a machete?
No, not quite. But I think if he was allowed to have a machete, he'd probably be wielding one.
One of the owners of the kebab shop up the road chases people down the road with his kebab knife.
Yeah, we'll just put Daisy on mute for a minute.
Yeah,
because-
Mr. Ed's on mute, is he?
Yeah, we just can't take that. Just
They're
can't
so
take that.
gormless and irritating. I don't know how anyone can sit through
Imagine
more than
going home
about
to
10
that.
minutes of this. I
Imagine
mean,
going home to that. You'd be like, "Hey, pour me a drink, doll." Quick.
God.
How was your day, darling?
Yeah, give me a drink. Give me another one. I need a top up.
And they're all so vacuous because they're not. I mean, they're making out like unimportant things are really important, like all of the net zero stuff. I mean, there's no rationality behind it. It's all just narratives.
To be fair, Nigel said the net zero stuff was a load of shite. Hold on, they're having a fight.
The problem ultimately by giving people equality of opportunity.
Want to solve the problem ultimately? Is that not the point?
But you can't give people equality of outcome. We're scared of our own shadow here. We're not going to deal with the question unless we stop being scared of ourselves.
Okay.
We go out and do what needs to be done.
Penny Mordaunt, how would you protect future
The troll is being the adult in the room.
Nigel, I mean, Nigel Farage has been the adult in the room.
Fraud. We have more than
I don't even understand what Penny's doing there. I mean, is anyone even going to vote for her?
Rishi sent her.
Police, violent crime
Yeah,
is down by 44%. But we have
Rishi's having a jolly in France, isn't he?
Knife crime
he's back now, isn't he?
London is top of the list. We
Well,
have put more police on the streets. We have met our manifesto commitment of 20,000 more police
what the
officers.
hell?
We have record numbers. And where you have
They
conservative
always
police
talk about
crime
more
commissioners
police
like
and
my
more
area
police
in
and more
Hampshire,
police.
you
And
have
the
local
police
bodies on the beat.
don't actually do anything.
No, they just
Absolutely.
they just arrest us for tweets.
Police crime
Yeah.
commissioner.
That did
as
until
well.
recently
If you
have a
are-
Conservative mayor.
If you are in, but he wasn't responsible for police.
They're all a bloody
There was
disaster.
there was a
I mean,
police
the
and crime
current lot have been a
commissioner, and it was
disaster for
Labour.
14
If you
years.
live in a
Labour were a
Labour area,
disaster
you are
before that. Then we had
40%
more
likely to
Tories
be a
that were a
victim of
disaster.
crime. That
Then
is
we're
a
going to get the
shocking
Communist
statistic.
Labour
We
Party
need more
as of
police, and we
next
need
month. That'll be
police
fun.
who are embedded in
Starmer's
communities
about as
that can
much of a
follow up with
communist
people.
as I
If
am a
kids are doing stuff, they follow
You're
up with
wrong.
people, they
politician.
follow up the parents.
You're wrong.
That's what
I'm sorry,
conservative
I
police
have
crime
to tell you,
think
you
he's a
are wrong.
communist?
Hampshire,
I think
we've
he's
got 600
absolutely a
extra
Trotskyite
officers.
communist,
Every
yeah.
single one of my wards has a
Okay.
named Bobby. People
Well,
know, build up
we're
intelligence.
gonna find out.
That is how we get crime down, and we have
So,
got it down by 55%.
like I was
Oh,
like I
where
was-
do they come up with these
Well, Nick,
numbers?
thanks for the
55%? Did she
I
just
think our young
pull that
people
out of her
don't feel safe
vagina or
either
something?
At the moment.
Ah,
Never
well,
mind
she
us
might
as
have turned to her
parents. I
right
say
and
that
pulled
I've
it
got
from the
15 and
ginger growler.
16-year-old.
Oh,
What
that's
did you say?
nasty.
55% what?
Crime down
They're frightened.
55%.
Can I
What
can I
they think
can I
is
share a
on
meme
their
because
streets,
it's
and
appropriate?
Young people who are
Yep.
worried about knife crime generally tend to carry a knife to protect themselves, but are more likely to actually be involved in knife crime because of that. We've got to educate our young people, and that means that.
By the way, I am doing jokes here, people. Jokes.
We said we put 13,000
Because I'm trying to make this a bit more
And he
light-hearted.
talked about 20,000 police officers.
What are we doing
They
with
put
all that? Are we
22,000,
just rolling
that's
this
a
on?
minus
Into
2,000
No,
in my
we're pulling it
mathematics.
down and then
So
we're doing a
they
new stream.
haven't
That's not
protected-
true.
We
We've
don't
got a
have a
record number of
thumbnail.
police officers.
Well,
we
just
have
make
seen
one.
the decimation of
Just
our
make
neighbourhood
one
policing, and
yourself.
actually when police are in
I
the
made
neighbourhood,
this one.
they get to know
Oh,
young people, they can work
boo-hoo.
with them, and we
I
can
asked
really
you-
get our young
all I
people
asked you to
feeling
do
safe
was
on the
prep
streets
all
again,
in.
because I
Fuck
think that
off.
is one of the real scandals at the moment, is our young people feel that they will be protected if they carry a
like
knife.
a
That is
fucking old
completely
married
untrue.
couple.
and we've got to
I've
educate
released
them and
2
make them
videos
feel
today
safe.
over
Release
on the Real
the
Review UK.
hounds. Release the hounds.
Referring to some areas
Listen,
having,
mate, I've
higher levels of
I've
crime
sold an
than
apple
others.
pie
Let's be
and
straight about
a
it.
whole
It's
tray of
areas
iced ginger
suffering most
cake.
poverty that will
Has your
suffer
wife
the
made
highest
ice
levels
brownie
of
yet?
crime. It is people
She's
who
got
have
brownies. She's
less
made
hope
brownies. We haven't put ice
who
on
are
it yet.
most likely to end up leading
DW says
criminal
roll it
lives.
over.
Absolutely
Britmate says
agree
get a
that we need to
producer.
look back
You're right,
to,
Britmate.
the education
No,
system.
we don't.
Make it
Let's
very,
not
very
roll it
clear to
over
our
because
young
then it'll be
people
like
that
a
there can be
4-hour
zero
stream.
tolerance
So?
on knives. I was attacked as
It will
a
be too
teenager.
much for
Luckily,
people who want to watch it
knives.
back.
My son was attacked a couple of years ago. Again,
boo-hoo.
luckily, no knives involved, but it makes me too very, very worried about the future for young people. But for us in Wales, what's absolutely key is that we bring the decision-making closer to communities such as yours, so that we can see the devolving of justice and policing, so that we can devise systems that work
That
for
would
Wales.
involve having smaller
Angela's
government,
Labour
bring
colleagues in
government
Wales
closer
agree
to the
with me on
community
that.
so the
Again,
community becomes the
Labour
government.
at a
Let's
UK
do
level
away
hoping
with
to
big
become the next
government.
government.
Yeah.
You know what, John? For
Briefly,
once,
Carla,
we
before I turn to
agree.
Stephen Flynn.
Let's just do
I've
away
signed
with
the
government
Citizens UK
completely.
pledge
Humans
for
are
a counsellor in
self-organising.
every school to help
Well,
young
yeah,
people's
humans are
mental health
self-organising,
and
and a
youth
benevolent
violence.
dictator
Will
such
the
as
others on the
myself could
panel
also,
today join
you know,
Absolutely.
be.
Benevolent
We already
dictator.
committed that we'd have mental
There,
health
that's what I
services.
Oh
was
my
to
God,
share.
that didn't take you long. Oh, we've seen that
Stephen
before.
Flynn,
haven't
on
we?
the broader question of policing, police officer numbers in Scotland are at the lowest level since 2008. Now,
I wanna know if
police in
she actually
Scotland are
said
not
that.
investigating every low-level
She,
crime.
I believe she did.
And thankfully, of course, Nick, in relation to your direct question, if I remember the figures correctly, serious knife crime in Scotland is comparatively low compared with many other areas. Now, that's not.
That's
to be
because
complicit
everybody's so high they
that.
can't
So-
be asked to
so-
go out
Concerns I
knifing.
worry about what the
So,
future
John,
holds for my
what's
kids.
up with his accent?
Ultimately, the
Is that
solution
He's
is
an
that
East Coaster,
what
mate.
Benn has said. What
right?
we need to do is make sure
He's
that
a
we're
wanker.
Weird.
investing in
It's
the
almost
areas
like a
that
George
need
Galloway.
support.
Let me
Like
find
a
out.
George
Poverty
Galloway.
is a
Hold on, let
major
me find out
driver
where he's
behind
from.
this, and Westminster has failed
Apparently he's a
Hello-
disabled man as
generations
well.
of young
Hello
people
there,
by
Ed.
not
It's me,
providing
George
them with hope
Galloway.
for a
I
better
like to
future. So
pretend that
return
I'm Scottish,
to
but I'm kind of
places
Scottish,
perhaps
but I'm not
shouldn't have to
all
go
the
back.
way
Something we should
Scottish.
all
You know
reflect
that
upon
he's been
going
in
into this
England
That
too
is
long that he's
terrible.
bastardised his accent.
Terrible accent.
I
That is a
know,
terrible
but that's
accent.
George Galloway's actual bloody accent.
Has no answers.
Stephen
This
Flynn,
question was about
Scottish
how the
politician.
party's going to
Let's see
protect
about-
future
Where are
generations
you
like Nick Donald's.
The
Snickerdoddle
future
son.
generations need
How can you feel
protection
confident
from the
about if
parties.
someone in a
The
similar position
parties
in
don't
Scotland
need
see
to
the police
protect
not
them.
investigating
Well,
it?
I want to
Aye, I
know.
was right.
Of course,
He's
as I
from.
outlined, as
Hey,
I
guess where
understand
he's
it to be
from?
the case,
He's
serious
from
knife crime
Dundee.
statistics in Scotland are comparatively
I want to
low
know
in
if they had to
comparison
pay people to be in the
elsewhere, but our
audience.
police
Of
officer
course.
numbers are, of course, still higher
Would
than
you
when
go
we
in that
came
audience?
into government. Again, if
No,
I'd go,
I think
but
the
I'd
pic-
get removed.
Yeah, they wouldn't let
I'd
you
rather
in.
I'd rather
Police officers
scoop my
working
eyeballs out and
with
eat them on
local
Oh,
toast.
shall I see if I
working
can
with our
swing
young
some
people
tickets to
to
one of
offer them
these
hope and
things?
optimism
Yeah,
for the
go
future,
on.
and I'm sure-
That
I'm
would be a
afraid that
laugh. And then you could wear your
Westminster doesn't offer
glasses.
that hope
I
and
wear my
optimism right now.
glasses and get kicked out.
Well, yeah, but that's okay.
Nigel Farage.
Yeah, look, again, I just think our whole approach to crime is wrong. Low-level crime is rapidly growing. Street-level crime is rapidly growing. And the old theories about New York. And
No,
how
we'll
it's
get
cleaned
John
up,
to
is if
stream
you
it
do the
live
stuff at
because
the
he
bottom,
can
i.e. people
react
carrying
when I get
knives,
kicked out.
shoplifting,
It would be
beating,
really
breaking
hilarious
windows,
if the
you
Tories
might
get
just deal with
totally
the more
wiped out
serious
and Nigel
stuff. But we
Farage
also
ends up
should
as
add
leader of the
into all of
opposition.
this the
That would
blighted
actually be
Yeah.
quite
It would be
amusing.
quite-
It would be
quite
funny.
It would be funny on all sorts of levels. I would be laughing my arse off at the Tories because they so deserve it. And I'd be laughing my ass off at
That
Keir
was our
Starmer because he'll
final
actually
question,
have
so
someone
I'm
on
gonna
the, on
thank
the
you all for
opposing
your
bench
responses
that's
to all of
actually
those
going
here in
to
the
oppose
audience who've
him
shared
rather than just being
their
a complete
questions
wet.
with us. But it is time now to go to the party's final thoughts. And
Final thoughts,
for
like an
that,
episode
we
of
have
Jerry
been given
Springer.
30
God.
seconds for a final thought from each of them.
Final thought.
And the order of those final
Take
thoughts,
care
those
of
final
yourselves
statements was
and
chosen
each
earlier
other.
by lot.
God
So let us
bless you,
go to
Jerry.
The first of those, and it's from Angela Rayner.
After 14 years of chaos, it's time for change. Keir Starmer has changed the Labour Party. Our
Bollocks!
fully
He's made it.
costed
Well,
plan for
okay, he's
Britain will
changed it, but
secure
he's
our
made it more
economy, will
authoritarian.
bring down NHS waiting times with 40,000 new appointments every week, and we'll secure our borders, not with gimmicks, but with a credible plan to smash the gangs. We'll create great British energy, bringing down bills and creating thousands of
threatened to show pictures of the ginger growler.
To tackle antisocial behaviour, and we'll hire 6,500 new teachers. So if you want change, vote Labour.
If you want change, vote Labour. That was awful.
You're not going to get any change.
So the choice is simple. Who do voters best trust to put Scotland?
None of us are going to vote for you because you're not standing anyone here. Why are you here?
NHS action on cost of living crisis, rejoining the European single market,
Oh,
creating
fuck
economic
off.
growth by
just fuck
delivering
off.
all
Just
of
fuck off.
Zero. Unlike the Labour Party, we will never, ever get comfortable with the Westminster status quo.
We will never
always
let you
fight for
down.
Scotland's right to choose.
I can't take his
So on the
accent
4th of July,
seriously.
vote to put
That's
Scotland's
because he's from
interests first.
Dundee.
Vote SNP.
They're all oddballs up there.
Caledania.
They don't talk right.
We can all see the Tories are toast. Thank goodness.
Follow me to the end of the
I thought she
rainbow.
said
You can find me Lucky Charms.
This is hilarious. I thought she actually called her Caledonia.
And she's right. He's changed them into the Conservatives. Frankly,
Oh,
our
God,
children
shut
deserve
up.
better. The
Watermelon.
Green Party is on the cusp of breaking through.
Which
and
is the
see-
The
thumbnail
Green
be
Party
for
is
all
on the
in?
cusp of
Green
sending us
MPs
all
will
back to
never
the Stone
stop
Age.
defending our
Which is
future,
the thumbnail be
protecting
for
our
all in?
NHS from privatisation and pushing the next Labour government to do better. We deserve real hope.
Oh,
and
they're
real change.
really going to pay
Vote
attention to your 5 seats.
Green up your way.
Yeah, that's really going to work.
This evening, I've been able to
Why
stand
is
up
he
for Wales,
here?
yes, but also for a different kind of politics that hopefully has been able to feel
And
relevant.
definitely
wherever you
doesn't
are.
involve
Measures is
sheep.
a positive one. This isn't as good as it gets. The Conservatives are gone. They are finished.
They're
and it
all
can't
just
come quickly
vacuous
enough.
idiots.
But there is a real chance here to send Labour a message too.
The sheep herder said,
like we're-
Wales for granted.
Mate, they've
It is
already
true that
conceded
communities
defeat. The
throughout
Green one
the
has just
UK
said we've got to
feel
stand up to
as if they
Labour.
are being
This one says, oh,
ignored.
we've got
Well, I
to
won't let
oppose Labour.
Wales
Oh,
be.
just
So
shut
vote
up.
Plaid
Yeah.
Cymru on the 4th of July.
Vote Plaid Cymru. But none of you in England because you can't.
We've come through tough times.
Oh,
Now
she's
there
being
is
Ba
a
ba 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 ba.
Angela Rayner,
Ba
Keir
ba
Starmer,
ba ba
get
ba ba
high
ba
taxes,
ba
higher
ba.
bills, and have your pension raided.
Right, that's enough Imperial
You can
March.
sit
Thank you
with
very
us
much.
and the plan that is working.
God, can you warn me next time you do that so I can
We will
take my
protect
headphones
your
off?
pension,
No.
and we will defend this nation.
Oh, we will defend this
For a
nation,
more
yeah, by
secure
starting war with
future.
Russia.
Vote
Excellent.
By building a superstar destroyer.
Our
Yeah,
country is
just-
crying out
they
for
might as
change,
well say it. I
and it's
mean,
not hard to see
who's
why.
this one?
Under this
This is
Conservative
Liberal.
government,
This is Mr. Ed.
Oh, yeah, like anyone's ever
Nothing
going to vote for the Lib Dems again after
Under
they
Ed Davies'
enable
leadership,
the
the
Tories
Liberal
and
Democrats will fix our NHS and
bollocksed up
social
the
care,
country.
tackle the cost of
Even
living
more.
crisis,
And
put an
provide
end
free
to the
hay for
scandal
all.
of filthy raw sewage being dumped in our rivers and streets.
Yeah, she does have a bit of
Every
an
vote for
equine
Liberal
thing
Democrats
going on.
is a vote for a fair
It's
deal.
like Sarah
and a vote
Jessica
to help deliver
Parker,
the
isn't
change
it?
that we
She's
so
about. I mean,
desperately
they could have
Nigel,
invited
but as far from
Postman
Sarah
Pat.
Jessica Parker
Nigel
as you could
Farage.
get.
Unlike the other 6, I don't need an autocue. I'm here because I believe in what I believe in. Our politics isn't working. You've heard these pathetic arguments tonight between the two big parties. Really, there isn't much difference. But electorally, Labour are going to win. The debate is who forms the opposition in the next parliament? Who fights for the rights of ordinary British people? Who fights to control our borders? Who fights
It
for
would
men and
be.
women
I mean,
running small businesses?
Parliament would be more fun with
Reform
him in it.
UK
You have to say,
It
just
would.
because he's actually got some
phenomenon,
personality. I
historic
mean,
one. So I urge
I
you,
disagree with
join
him
the revolt.
about pretty much everything, but
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
at least he's got some
And
something.
With
The other
that,
ones are
we
all
ended.
just
That is it from
like-
the BBC election debate.
Oh.
From all of us here in the radio theatre, our audience.
thank God for
And
that.
thank you to all the politicians who took part.
Get rid
Thank
of
you for
her.
being with us.
Just get rid
Good
of
night.
her.
Oh, just go.
Enough. 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 You can see how you can see how seriously I took that tonight. Started the first half hour in the green mankini that Amy bought me.
They're not even serious people.
Of course, they're not serious people. They're bloody morons.
It's actually scary that one of those idiots is going to end up in government.
I mean, you know, Nigel Farage
God.
is just there to troll them. You know.
Oh
that.
yeah. No, the whole thing is a massive trolling exercise.
But
and-
he's the adult in the room. That's what I took from it.
Yeah, he's actually he seemed to me to be the only one saying something that just wasn't mindless sound bites and just narrative nonsense and just kind of regurgitating the same formulaic bollocks.
Well, the thing is, The reason that I can do what we're doing here and cover the debates in the way that we are, just take the piss out of a lot of them, is because the fact of the matter is none of them represent me, none of them represent my views, and I have decided I have just removed myself from the electoral process completely because I can't vote for any of them. They don't represent me. I cannot vote for any of them. So I will take the piss out of them all equally, and I think that's all I can do here.
Yeah, I mean that's basically where I'm at with it as well. I'm going to be spoiling my ballot unless I can see an independent on there that isn't a complete wet wipe. But
A vote for anybody except the Conservatives is a vote for Labour. That's a fact. Because of the first past the post system, and this is something that I heavily agree with Nigel Farage on. We need electoral reform, but we're not going to get electoral reform from within. You cannot change this system from within. The system needs to be brought down. How that happens, I can't actually say on a platform like this, but it needs to happen. It needs to change, and it's down to the people to change it.
Well, the way they're going, the system is going to bring itself down.
It does, doesn't it?
It needs to change. Otherwise, you, me, we're never going to have representation. Our views are never going to have representation.
Okay, that's enough talking pish. If we're not running this on to All In, then it's coming down so I can put the next one up.
So stick around, boys and girls, because in about 5 minutes' time, we will be live once again with this week's edition of Chasing Dissent All In. Now, will I be dead from the heat here? Because I am starting to glisten. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Well, it's not fucking shut you up yet, has it?
Fuck
Bye-bye.
you, John.